Hello and welcome to Superpower Broadcasting. I'm Kevin Castley. Thanks for being here tonight. Tonight, I've got a tweet for you. This is from Chris Hayes of MSNBC, and we're going to be looking at it. He bashes the late Christopher Hitchens, and yeah, it's pretty repulsive. So let's take a look. Let's get right into it. This was Chris Hayes on October 29th. 2020. Quote, if Hitchens had lived, he'd be making $1 million a year on Substack writing exclusively about woke mobs and why the US must go to war with China, end quote. So he'd be right? That's what I tweeted out at Chris Hayes. I was like, oh, so he'd be right. So John Smith's Basement, he's been on the show before. I've been on panels with him over on Reese's channel, Spooky Nookies, back when it was Nightmare Fuel. He's a great guy. He replied to this. Yet you're making Twitter posts wondering about what ifs, wishing you had made as much of an impact as him. Owned, wrecked. Yeah, no, Chris Hayes. I mean, I've watched Chris Hayes in the past. He definitely has this air of an intellectual going on. But at the end of the day, it amounts to, your standard talking points, your standard virtue signaling, war bad, Bush bad. He's basically a more well-paid Kyle. We talk about Kyle Kulinski. General Shepard here asks, who's Chris Hayes? So basically, he's just a higher paid version of Kyle Kulinski. That's Kremlin Kyle of Secular Talk. They have a lot of the same sort of demeanor. Obviously, Hayes talks a bit more professionally than Kyle. But and Hayes doesn't have the same cringy nicknames that Kyle does. But I just gotta say, Chris Hayes. Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of the guy. Not a fan of the guy, and I've watched him before. And on some points about, Russian interference and whatnot, he's made decent points, but you'd have to be a brainlet or just not aware of the history of the network and not watched MSNBC for very long to take that without the context of his career, the context of MSNBC, the context of the Democrats, and specifically the context of the progressives of which he's a part. They never talked tough on Russia. They never talked tough on Russia during the Cold War. MSNBC wasn't really a thing, but you know what I'm talking about. They never talked tough on Russia during the 90s. They never talked tough on Russia during the 2000s when Mitt Romney was running against Obama, and he said, hey, look, Russia's a serious threat, and, they're on the rise. They're going to try to take stuff in Europe, basically. He was right, and 2 years later, he was proven right when, Obama was president, and Vladimir Putin decided to prove that Mitt Romney was right. And he invaded Europe, and he invaded Ukraine, as well as he had already proven prior, of course, invading Georgia in 2008. Let's not forget about that. That was the first war in Europe of this century, was when Putin invaded Georgia. Where was MSNBC then? Where was MSNBC during the Iraq War? Oh, that's right. They were saying war bad and calling people warmongers and whatnot and shilling for John Kerry and Al Gore and Barack Obama. So when I see Chris Hayes, and granted, I haven't watched him in a long time, but, around 2016, 2017, I would watch his show sometimes. And sometimes he'd have good points about Russian interference and whatnot. Likewise with Rachel Maddow. That's a shocker. I mean, what, I'm complimenting Rachel Maddow? Yeah. Rachel Maddow, more so than Chris Hayes, has actually done good work in presenting the actual financial ties between the Trump family and the Kremlin. That's worth noting. Where were these people just a couple years before the Orange Man came about, when Mitt Romney actually had a chance of winning and doing something about Russia? Oh, that's right. They were calling them warmongers and whatnot. This is why it's just so hard to take these people seriously, because their entire viewpoint, their entire arguments depend on, is the Orange Man in the White House? Because for me, right, if the Orange Man, Donald Trump, decides he wants to get tough on Russia tomorrow, am I going to start saying that Russia's the good guy and calling Trump a warmonger? No, I'm going to be like, oh, that's awesome. Everybody, look, Trump did something cool. Because I'm not a brainlet who bases my identity on resisting Trump, like these losers. I want to like Trump. Who doesn't want to like the American president, right? So this Chris Hayes clown, he tweets out about Hitchens, which, by the way, when I first saw this tweet, I want to note for the record here, a couple things crossed my mind when I saw this tweet. The first thought that crossed my mind was, because of course I haven't watched him in a couple years, what's the context that I'm missing here? Why is Hitchens in the news all of a sudden? I'm still wondering this, by the way. I've been busy today. Didn't really get that much of a chance to look into this. And to be honest, I figure, it's probably more interesting for you guys if we keep it organic and we figure this out together, right? So we'll try to figure it out on stream. Maybe you guys already know the answer. Maybe I'm just in the dark here. But I was thinking, when I see this tweet, and I didn't even see this tweet when it happened. I saw it later on. I noticed John Smith's basement, who I like, right? He was replying to it. And I was like, oh. So the first thing that crosses my mind when I see this tweet by Chris Hayes was, why is Hitchens in the news all of a sudden? Second is, as I realized, it doesn't really seem like this is some noteworthy news story or something. It seems like he's just tweeting this out of nowhere. I then go to see, who's he replying to? And I look up, I scroll, I restart Twitter, and what do you know? There's nothing preceding this tweet. He's not replying to anyone. This is a standalone tweet. And then you're like, wait, so he's just, on October 29th, 2020, randomly tweeting about how he dislikes Christopher Hitchens. So even though Hitchens is dead, I just want to be clear here. He's still living rent-free in Chris Hayes' head. Like, he is immortal in that sense. The same way as, like, even if Dick Cheney were to die tomorrow, he'll always be living in Kyle Kulinski's head, Kremlin Kyle's head, right? So no, he just wanted to take the opportunity. He's just having a normal one. He just wanted to take the opportunity to bash the late Christopher Hitchens. So let's get into the substance of his tweet, shall we? If Hitchens had lived, he did live and then he died, and we all die at some point, right? But I assume he means, live longer, live to this day. He'd be making $1 million a year. Dude, I'm pretty sure Chris Hayes makes more than $1 million a year, by the way. I want to look up his salary, Chris Hayes' salary. Because I know Maddle makes like 10 million or so. Oh, okay, he makes 6 million. Okay, so Hayes makes 6 million a year to post cringe on mainstream television, aggressive gremlinry, progressive propaganda, basically. But if Hitchens made $1 million, that would be spooky to Chris Hayes. Dude, you make $6 million. You make $6 million to basically criticize American capitalism. Weak. Anyway. Not a hint of irony either. I by the way, I will get to the chat shortly after I go through and dissect this tweet. On Substack writing. Christopher Hitchens, of what I've read of Christopher Hitchens, is top caliber. It's very, very good writing, whether you agree with it or not. He was obviously a very good and talented writer, talented author, right? His articles are engaging, very detailed, very dynamic. Substack writing exclusively. No, BS. He'd still be talking about Kurds. He'd still be talking about Iraq. He'd still be talking about a lot of issues. He'd still be talking about North Korea. Oh, exclusively about woke mobs. I see what Chris Hayes is doing here. And by the way, I should point out, this is actually the first tweet I've ever seen from Chris Hayes. Because back when I watched Chris Hayes, occasionally, for a period of about 2 years between 2015, late 2016, that kind of period, I wasn't on Twitter. I had a Twitter account. I don't think I had logged into the site in like 5 years at that point. I didn't actually start tweeting until the summer of 2019. You see what he's getting at here. I don't know. Does he do this all the time? I'm just dissecting this. This is my first introduction to Chris Hayes tweets. Exclusively about woke mobs. You understand the framing of what he's getting at. He's trying to imply that it's a conspiracy sort of issue. It's a non-issue, right? Because nobody says, oh, he'd be writing exclusively about North Korea if you were trying to say that North Korea was a serious threat. If you were trying to dismiss a guy you didn't like, you were saying, oh, he'd be writing exclusively about North Korea, and your point is that North Korea is a huge threat, that wouldn't make any sense. You only say, oh, he'd be writing exclusively about this if you mean to say that that's a non-issue, right? Woke mobs are a non-issue to Chris Hayes, this progressive gremlin who gets paid $6 million a year to sit in his office, distant from, or I should say his studio, distant from the realities of the world. Oh, we actually have a man here tonight in the studio, one of the two gentlemen that are featured in tonight's stream in terms of their tweet replies to Mr. Hayes. We have one of them. I don't think John Smith's Basement will be here. It's been a while since I sent him an invite, and it's late where he is. It's late where I am, but it's later where he is. But we have Dr. Nukies. We have Spooky Nukies here. It's actually Halloween. Happy Halloween.
Where's Reese?
Where's Reese? Oh, man. So we're talking about Hitchens tonight. We're talking about Hayes. I've never seen Hayes Twitter before. It's just, it's juvenile. It's juvenile. And, I'll ask you how you are and how it's going and how's your Halloween going and all this stuff. But I got to say, before I forget, because I was telling the audience this, just my thought process. I didn't really do any research on the tweet. I wanted it to be organic so that we can go through it together as a chat and everything. When I saw that tweet, I was first thinking, why is Hitchens in the news? And then when I realized that he wasn't, I'm like, okay, who's he replying to? Chris Hayes. He wasn't replying to anybody. This seems proof positive to me that Hitchens has been living in this guy's head for like 9 years, or more. Because imagine,
oh, yeah, definitely, right? More.
Imagine why is he tweeting about Christopher Hitchens all of a sudden, saying that, this to me, it seems like it's out of left field. Now, maybe he was talking about him on his show earlier, but again, why is Christopher Hitchens in the news right now specifically, such that this guy is commenting on it? I don't know, man. It seemed to me like Kyle making a video about Dick Cheney right now again. So,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is it was pretty pathetic. His Chris Hayes' tweets, they're about on par with his segments on MSNBC. Ooh, just for the record,
that's a doozy. That's a doozy.
For all the talk of like the mainstream media, like Chris Hayes is he's like an Ilhan Omar cheerleader. Like, that's the kind of reporter he is. So that should give you a clue as to his stance on anything. And Actually, let's pull up. I forgot what he even tweeted because it was so stupid. I flushed it from my memory. Let's pull that up again real quick,
Oh
just
yes.
so I can just so I can say,
So
okay, yeah,
I'll,
Hitchens.
I'll
Okay,
read it for
oh
the
yeah, that was
audience
it.
here.
Yes, yes.
Quote: If Hitchens had lived, he'd be making 1 mil. One. By the way, I'm going to read this because I read it for the audience before. This time, I'm not going to read it as I did when I read it to the audience before, where my mind automatically fills in the gaps and whatnot and makes it readable and legible to the audience. I'm going to read it as if I was reading an Ian Stevens tweet. I'm going to read it as it exactly sounds. So, quote: If Hitchens had lived, he'd be making $1 million a year on Substack, writing exclusively about woke mobs and why the US must got to war with China, end quote. So yeah, he's got two spelling errors there, which is like I have spelling errors and stuff too. If I catch them, I'll literally delete the tweet and then retweet it 30 seconds later. Chris Hayes there. By the way, $6 million a year to tweet and post cringe on television. So 6 million, $6 million a year. So I mean, yeah, here he is. I mean, here he is talking about how awful it would be if Hitchens made $1 million a year. The dude makes $6 million a year to do less than Hitchens, to do less than a year in terms of actually contributing work and effort and meaning to society than Hitchens did in 4 days in a typical year. So it's not to say all of his stories, like it's not like I'm going to say in an hour. No, I've watched Chris Hayes. Sometimes, occasionally, he'll make a good point, but it's like 4 days out of a year. So
It's just such a dumb tweet. It's to suggest that Hitchens hasn't covered a broad variety of topics over the course of his life. You know, like they're trying to basically like portray Hitchens like he would be Dave Rubin, which is so inaccurate.
yeah,
And he wasn't a fan of the Trumps either. So if Hitchens could have lived to have seen a Trump presidency, he would have some words for that definitely. And but even just going with this kind of like straw man view of things, these are not issues that are not worth talking about. Like he tries to like say, oh yeah, woke mobs. You mean like
exactly,
riots? You mean like
exactly. That's the
we've
point that I was
seen
getting
in New
to.
York and Philadelphia?
Nobody, I was that was what I was getting to right before you came on. Was nobody sets up something like this to say, oh, he would be writing exclusively about something. If there's somebody they don't like and they're trying to make a point against them, nobody says exclusively about something they think is a serious issue. So he's clearly implying here that woke mobs aren't an issue, that it's just a right wing talking point when we've seen them. I've been on Henry's stream. We watched this stuff live. Now, the mainstream media rarely covered the riots live that we would watch. We'd always have to get feeds, and sometimes you'd be there. We'd always have to get feeds from like Unicorn Riot and whatnot, because the only mainstream television network that would often be there on the ground was like Russia Today, which like I get why they are, because they want to
Mhm.
promote discord in America, but
You know,
you know,
those like streams that are coming, like internal streams, those are always going to be better than news coverage anyway, because you actually get to it's like you're there. You're in the heart of everything. You get to hear what some people are saying
yeah,
and get a feel of what it's like on the ground. And yeah, it's clearly an issue worth talking about. Also, even more of an issue worth talking about is the U.S. Having a war with China. It will be an economic war, hopefully. And I mean, what it's going to be now, this is a very optimistic prediction, would be strengthening a U.S. led coalition against China's economic chokehold on the world, to a point where they would have to massively reform, massively de-escalate any of their subversion and influence throughout the world. And it would also help bring a lot of jobs back to Western nations as well. But
yeah.
it will take a pretty massive investment. So that's the problem, though. You kind of have to sell people on that, and a lot of people, they want immediate gratification, and they want cheap goods that are imported from terrible Chinese factories.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the problem. Like, we're always we make a lot of points related to global human rights, but we're trying to make those points to a nation filled with people who benefit off the suffering of others every single day. It's a lot to get through, because, like, I think in the back of a lot of people's heads, they're like, well, I don't care about that. Like, they're aware of all the suffering that happens in the world to give them an easier life. But they're like, oh, but I wouldn't want to upset that. I wouldn't want to inconvenience myself. And that's a lot of programming to get through, for sure.
Yeah.
That's a big issue. But the way he tries to frame it, I guess people have this view that Hitchens was like some like big consistent warmonger. I can't even think of a war outside of Iraq that he advocated for. It's not like he was. I mean, anytime I've heard him talk about war, he was talking about Iraq. I don't think he's ever been like, oh, we need to. He was just like, throwing darts at a dartboard with countries listed on it. Okay, we're going to go to war with them and them. And I think he would have a different approach, China,
From what yeah.
We're not
well, there was
even...
Afghanistan too, but I get what you mean. Yeah.
That kind of goes in tandem with Iraq to a degree.
That's what Ron Paul and Michael Moore and Jesse Ventura would say. They would say, oh, it was all, Iraq and Afghanistan did 9/11, but it was, they were both innocent. It was actually George W. Bush. That's what those guys would say.
Oh man.
This
it was worth talking about.
This guy, this Chris Hayes guy, like I don't know. I don't know what it is. It has to be some sort of complex where he understands that, Christopher Hitchens was a real journalist and he would go there on the ground to war zones and report on things, whereas Chris Hayes is, what do I say? What's my one-liner for him? I'm not even sure I can repeat my one-liner for him on here because, but I mean, we probably said worse stuff on stream before. I came up with one for him. It's probably more apt for Michael Moore, but I've had other names for Michael Moore in the past. Larded and tarded. So what do you think of that one? So, because Chris Hayes, he ain't too slim. So there's lard. He ain't too bright, so there's tards. So,
I mean, compared to Michael Moore, he might as well be Michael Phelps, really. But
yeah, I think the nickname for Michael Moore should just be whatever the name, like you were saying, whatever the name for that terrorist dude they caught and had to load him into the that should just be his new nickname because he's apologetic for them.
I don't know that guy's name.
I don't know that guy's name either, but like, I mean, I don't like Chris Hayes very much, and I'll say this, and this might be a hot take, but Rachel Maddow is better than Chris Hayes. She's done better reporting than Chris Hayes.
Oh yeah, so, yeah, I mean, obviously,
and people know her as more of like an SJW and all this sort of stuff, but it's like I don't care. I don't care.
And people were saying in the chat that like, yeah, she had a different reporting style back in the day. I don't care about that either. I don't care really what people said in 2003. I think that people can change and do better things in the present moment, and I'm obviously going to care more about that because unlike some people, I am not stuck in 2003.
How you gonna pay for it?
Fine. How are you going to pay for it? I live in 2020. I don't know about the rest of these people.
He's right here. He's literally he's in the studio right now. He's not happy. He's not happy. His channel's flatlining, and Dick Cheney and George W. Bush are haunting his head right now. He's not happy, man. Don't ask him if he's already. He's not happy, man.
He does look rather peeved in that picture. That's a little too perfect.
Oh man, yeah. No, I've been making some more Hawkwave memes and stuff. I made this one tonight because I was too busy to like actually like get dressed up and stuff to go live tonight. But I'll be back with the webcam tomorrow, I believe. But and we got a lot of exciting stuff planned on the channel for the next week and a half. Obviously, there's the election, so you guys don't want to miss that. I'm also gonna be featuring on a post-election panel on the 7th with a guy, David Schneier from Twitter. I got invited onto his roundtable, so that'll be interesting. He also does YouTube videos. He's a Trump supporter, so I figure it could be fun, But he wanted
it could
to
also be maddening.
Yeah, well, he wanted to bring on a hawk, so I'm like, you know what? Sure, I'll do it. I mean, if it was the election, no, I'm busy, but the 7th, sure, I can do that. I'm gonna have. I've been talking with the nuclear engineering student. He's going to do 2 interviews / lectures for us, answering questions and stuff on nuclear physics. He's going to do 2 of them. One's going to be your more basics and history and that kind of stuff. Second's going to be getting into like new stuff and 4th gen nukes, that kind of stuff, and going over those kinds of things. So if you guys got questions that you want to get actual answers on and stuff from a guy who studies this stuff, as opposed to just random people on Quora being like, I don't know, but like nuke go boom, that kind of thing. He can answer some stuff, so it'll be pretty cool. I've also, of course, as I said, it's good to do the election stream, but I am going to be debating Dylan Burns at some point. We don't have a date set yet, but that's going to happen. So stay tuned for that as well.
No. I had a feeling that wasn't going to happen until after the election, and probably at this rate, probably won't happen until next year.
I know, right?
Like, let's be realistic. Like, when's he gonna make time? Around Thanksgiving, around Christmas? I mean, this is like the busiest time of the year for most people.
That's right. I mean, it's that sort of thing, and but I want to go back to this because I did have 3 other tweets prepared, and I definitely want to get to Reese's tweet before Reese has to go. But Claire Voltaire, I like Claire Voltaire. We like Claire. She replied, "Chris Hayes is $1 million wealthier than Hitchens was when he died, with not an inch of the contribution Hitchens made." Now, my only critique, or my only sort of thing here, is that Claire probably didn't look up Chris Hayes' salary. He makes like $6 million a year, which she might be right. He might be $1 million wealthier than Chris Hayes because he probably spends like all of his money on like swag, like Nick Fuentes or whatever. But he makes a lot more money than Christopher Hitchens ever did. Like, it's not just $1 million. He's probably got like $10 million, $20 million more than Hitchens, and not the proportional stature. Not even close. Like Chris Hayes, he's just basically, and I was making this point before you came on too, Reese. Let me know what you think about this comparison. I basically said, like, in terms of their physique, in terms of their style, in terms of their ideology, he's basically a more wealthy version, a higher paid version of Kyle. What do you think about that? Like, does that sound right, or
to a degree, for sure. I think that a lot of the stories he covers would be stories Kyle wouldn't cover. Like, Kyle, this is a funny thing. I almost say cow because that's what you have
Kremlin Cow
in my head. Yeah, Kremlin Kyle. He would obviously accuse Chris Hayes of being like a mainstream shill to a degree, which is kind of funny. But no, I think that at their core, a lot of these people who now, I mean, they spend most of their time complaining about Trump, but a couple of years ago, they were really mad about Chris Hitchens and Sam Harris and people like that, and it did kind of stick with them. I mean, obviously, because just out of the blue, man, if fuck Hitchens, fuck this dead guy, am I right? It's like,
it's just weird.
It is bizarre, and
like nothing prompted this that I'm missing, right? It was just him.
No.
Okay.
Hitchens is not in the news in any way. It's not even like his birthday. It's nothing. Nothing's happening with Hitchens.
What a legend, man! He's immortal. He's fucking immortal. Like, like that's what I want to be like. I want to be like dead for 9 years at some point, and still have the aggressive gremlins and the bootlickers and stuff tweeting about me. You know that like you're successful. You know you made it at that point. I mean, man, like they're gonna be tweeting about him 50 years from now, complaining about how he was an imperialist or whatever, all this kind of stuff, because he opposed Saddam. You know, amazing.
Oh yeah, clearly that's imperialist. It's just amazing. Like this is the kind of commentary we're getting. The U.S. opposing China, just the world opposing China, is one of the biggest issues facing us now. In a COVID-ridden world, I don't want to see tweets like this, man.
Yeah,
It's such a caricature. It's such a cartoonish portrayal of our opposition culturally and militarily to China. And people will just make it a big joke. And if you suggest any actions are taken against China, you'll be accused of being like this horrible imperialist. And that just gets old fast. And China is actually, I think, is one of the few nations that you could convince a lot of people who would typically be non-interventionists of actually giving a fuck about.
that's true. Even the MAGA guys, they talk about China.
Yeah, no, like even alt-right guys. I mean, obviously they have other reasons for not liking China, but they always oppose intervention. But you have to consider like a lot of them. I guess they're not all alt-right. That's not fair. But there were a lot of guys who were making like China memes. They had other issues going on with that, and a lot of people took issue with kind of the Chinese relationship with the NBA. That was an issue a couple months back. So things like that, I think that you could convince a lot of people of the malign presence that China has in the world and why it needs to be opposed. But
it's
now,
so obvious.
Then we can get tweets like this.
Because it's one of those things, and I think one of the reasons why is that unlike in Iraq, for example, where even though Saddam armed he literally armed terrorists that went on to kill Americans even before the war, all that kind of stuff. He was a menace and whatnot. He obviously affected oil prices and whatnot. The average American did, in terms of their personal lives, they weren't really personally affected by Saddam. And, we could talk about the ethics and the morality and whatnot at play there. But with communist China, there are a lot of Americans, especially a lot of Trump supporters, that literally lost their jobs due to outsourcing to that country, right? And we've been getting outplayed by them, not just America, but Canada too. And it's the sort of thing that in the wake of COVID, just going around stores lately, one of the things that you'll notice, at least, where I am, a lot of the shelves were empty for several months or very sparse for several months. A lot of contracts expired. A lot of supply lines were shut down because of the pandemic. A lot more stuff is made in Canada now. And I'm sure it's probably similar in America too. To me, I think that's a good thing. Like, it's a necessity. There's no getting around it. It's not like they chose to go in that direction. If there was no virus, they'd still be making their stuff in China. But it's good to see Canadian industry coming back, So that's my perspective on it. So
yeah, that's one possible, positive effect of a really horrible time. It's just a shame that it took something this drastic for people to really care about that. And all you can really hope for is that it sticks and that people don't forget. Like, at some point, COVID will not be a big issue. They'll have a vaccine, and it will be around, but it will be much more easy to treat. And I hope that when that time comes, people don't forget what happened to the world, because it does seem like people will conveniently forget quite often after something terrible happens. And they're like, oh, what was that? I mean, this is a completely unacceptable situation that we're still in, and we've been in for the vast majority of this year. And people have just kind of grown to accept it. There's like, well, this is the new normal. And okay, fine, that there's merit to that in learning to live and survive in a COVID world. But it really shouldn't be the new normal in the sense of like, okay, yeah, we accept that this happened and there are no repercussions for this. There's no repercussions for withholding information and delaying the world's response to this. But a lot of people, I mean, like, it's so to see tweets like this, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. This tweet from Chris Hayes, this is a pro-China tweet.
Yes.
Completely obfuscating the issue. This is a China apologist, Chinese propaganda tweet. Do not lose sight of that. Do not lose sight of who is an enemy of America. And I will say that time and time again. Like, people just out themselves. They out themselves as like which side they're really rooting for.
That's right.
And Chris Hayes, he wasn't exactly someone who I was like counting on to be on my side anytime soon, but it's still just like, and the Hitchens thing just adds insult to injury, really. Like, you have this guy just obsessing over Hitchens years after the man's been departed, and for no reason other than he must have just been randomly thinking about Hitchens one day. What a world, man.
I have a different hypothesis. I have a different conjecture here. He wasn't just randomly thinking about Hitchens that night or that morning when he tweeted this. He's been on his mind continually, or not continually, but like throughout the day at random points every day. Like, because he knows, Chris Hayes knows that, he could never live up to the stature and caliber of journalist that Christopher Hitchens was. Chris Hayes is a tarted and larded dude in a studio getting paid $6 million a year to post cringe. And, that's it. That's all he'll ever be. He can make more money, but
you're getting paid to read from a teleprompter.
That's it. Yeah.
Making $6 million. Yeah, no, it's stupid. And it's clear that Hitchens has been on his mind for a long time, and it's a very disingenuous representation of Hitchens. And I guess people believe they think that, oh man, he would have been like Jordan Peterson, or he would have been like Dave Rubin. Like, clearly, if you think that, you don't know a thing about Hitchens. Like, you never read Hitchens. You never saw a Hitchens debate or a Hitchens speech. I have.
Yeah.
So I know that takes like this make no sense. They make no sense whatsoever. But oh no, and then to defend what's happening domestically with the riots, like, oh man, it's like they try to portray it as like this small issue, like, oh, just imagine writing about these riots. It's like, yeah, they would be kind of worth writing about.
It's just imagine if we inserted something else in here. Like, imagine if Christopher Hitchens said, or not Christopher Hitchens, imagine if Chris Hayes said, imagine if this quote read, if Hitchens had lived, he'd be making $1 million a year on Substack writing exclusively about Russian interference and why the U.S. must go to war with China. Now, he can't, because he's at MSNBC, and that's like their big talking point right now, because Orange Man bad. They're not going to continue with that once Donald Trump is out. They're going to go back to calling Mitt Romney and people like that warmongers for talking about Russia. But for right now, they can't say that. Or imagine he said, oh, he'd be making $1 million a year on Substack writing exclusively about COVID and why the U.S. must go to war with China. Yeah, you can't really do that either, because they also have to acknowledge that that's an issue. But woke mobs? Oh, but that's not an issue, bro. That's just right-wing propaganda. Except we've literally seen the videos of it happening. It happened in Philadelphia just the other day, in a state that if Joe Biden loses 99 times out of 100, he's going to lose the election in terms of the modeling that's been done at 538, which is favorable to Biden. So he literally can't lose Pennsylvania and expect to win. And yet here we are. Oh, huge mobs. That's gonna help Trump. Now you could say it's very marginal, perhaps, but for all we know, the actual difference in the votes going into this is a lot closer than the polls are, given the margin of error. He's up 5. Margin of error is usually 3 to 5 points. So, what happens if it is a few hundred votes or a few thousand votes that makes the difference? That's what happened last time. Who knows?
I
It's
mean,
really going to come down to a few states. So
it was gonna be close anyway. Is the vibe we were getting? It's a very divided nation, and yeah, it's true that Trump, often will have a hard time with his approval ratings. There's a very enthusiastic base that still exists after all these years. And a big problem of the last election was people underestimating Trump. Now, granted, he actually has, political experience under his belt now.
true.
I don't mean that he gained experience. I more mean like he has things politically that people can tie to his name. Whereas last time he was running as like the outsider. Well, now he really can't do that. So that's obviously going to influence some people's decision. No, it's a big issue. It's a big issue to it always comes down to Pennsylvania and states like this. And to be like so dismissive of covering this is a major domestic problem, like the burning down of major cities, and you actually have to like sit down with a prominent reporter and explain to him why that's important.
Yeah, he's a reporter. Like, if anybody knows that it's an issue, it would be somebody like him who gets paid, because what is $6 million? If you actually break down, $6 million divided by 365, this guy makes he doesn't even work every day a year. This guy makes over 365. This guy probably makes about 40,000 or something. Or no, he makes $16,000 a day, every day to do the news, and he only does the news for a few hours because obviously he's not like me where he's deciding. Well, for all I know, he's not like me where he's deciding what am I going to talk about and how am I going to present things and or interacting with a chat. He doesn't have a chat. He literally just shows up to a studio. There's a script prepared for him. He reads off a teleprompter and then he goes home. He has one of the easiest jobs in the world. Like, I'd be willing to wager it's actually harder to do a typical superpower broadcasting stream each day than to do his show, in terms of the effort that goes into it. He gets paid $6 million. Here he is whining that Hitchens might have had $1 million. That's the other thing that's funny. Like, because I don't know. It seems weird just using $1 million. Maybe he means it as like a big amount or whatever, but it's like, okay, but dude, that would maybe be more of a point if you made like $100,000 a year. Dude makes 6 times that. So really you're going to get on his ass then for him making 1/6 as much as you to talk about the mobs?
But he'd be making it off of talking about SJWs. No, that's wrong.
This is amazing. It's amazing. I mean, it's just
amazing.
It's amazing. It's in a similar way to how like Fox would downplay COVID. MSNBC downplays the mobs, but they're both issues. Like, they can't even just agree to just report on the facts in that sense. Like, obviously Fox has gotten better with it. MSNBC has to acknowledge some of the riots. They'll have their spin on it, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And Fox has their spin on it, but they have to come to terms with it. But this
will be like that.
As if it's a non-issue, so
it'll be like the CNN headline where it was like, it said like mostly peaceful protests, and there's like fires blazing in the background.
Yes, I have it right here. I have it right here. I'm just gonna remove the chyron and remove the. That's it. By the way, just for those of you who are saying, well, that's an edited screenshot. The only part of this that's edited was the NPC Wojak CNN guy that Timothy put over this. The chyron is real. You can look it up. They actually wrote that.
People can go look that up for themselves. It does exist.
The brainlet at CNN that gets paid 6 figures to type the chyrons wrote fiery but mostly peaceful protests. That's a big meme. That's a huge meme It's a huge meme now. You
The
know,
Chiron master.
yeah, it's like fiery, or it's like fiery, but mostly peaceful. Third World War breaks out in Korean Peninsula. You know, mostly peaceful,
I
bro.
would I would
It's
love
like,
the power for one day to change the Chirons, and I would have put like fiery passions engulf the streets or
yes,
something like that.
yes. No, it's like mostly peaceful looters. Mostly peaceful looters burn down the Walmart after stealing all the inventory, or like we got
Technically, it's all insured, so who cares?
that. Okay, by the way, those people. Okay, I have to say something about that. That's amazing. Do they not understand that the people that work there, like, do these people really think that we're only just concerned with the merchandise? Like, do they think that those people are going to get paid for work that they can't do because the place is burned down? Like, what the hell do they think? Oh, it was insured. Yeah. What happens to the workers? Like, are these people supposed to be in solidarity with the workers or some crap? They don't give
Well,
a shit.
obviously, like unrelated businesses just start getting targeted. Like, oh, Wendy's got torched. It's like, well,
Literally.
sorry,
They,
everyone who worked at that
They
Wendy's, you're out of
burned
a job.
the Wendy's down because a man was drunk in his car outside and then resisted arrest, fought with the cops, stole one of the police officers' tasers, fired it at them, and then was put down. We saw the video. That's another thing about all this is that sometimes when I'll be watching Young Turks to see their framing on this stuff, no, we say, now that we have these videos and stuff, we can see things now that back in the 50s or 60s people didn't see. And it's like, yeah, a lot of police brutality happened against black people back then, for sure. But this isn't the appropriate case to use that argument, because when you look at Jacob Blake, for example, and you see the footage, you see, yeah, he clearly was reaching into his vehicle and resisting arrest. Or you see the footage from Rayshard Brooks, and you're like, oh, he clearly fought with the cops, stole his taser, fired it at them. You can literally see it in the footage. So the video here exonerates the officers in both of those cases. But what do? They burn down the Wendy's. What they
It
burn
doesn't.
down Kenosha.
It doesn't matter,
Like,
man. Like any video, like you could have full video evidence from 20 different angles. If they'll find a way, to make it work for them. And oftentimes it's like, well, I stand in solidarity, with this guy. They'll say something like, well, yeah, it's basically confirmation bias. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. They'll say, for Rayshard Brooks, they'll say, well, yeah, he had every reason to be afraid of the cops because, we all know that cops love to kill black men. So that's what they would say. And yeah, I mean, I know you groaned at it, and it is stupid, but that's what people believe. And
but he was drunk.
You can show them videos of a guy stealing a taser, running away, shooting at the cops. You can show them video of a guy angrily approaching the cops with a knife drawn, and they'll find a way to make those guys victims. It doesn't really matter.
But he was drunk. They should let him go. He was drunk behind the wheel and driving.
Deep down, they see it as justified revenge against the white supremacist system. They wouldn't admit this. A lot of them wouldn't, but they do fully, somewhere deep in their mind, believe in violence against police officers. They just do.
Oh, man.
And it comes out, even though it's something that you would normally try to suppress, it comes out. They really can't help but show their hand. And to like dismiss so it's bad enough. It's bad enough that we have criminals acting a fool and trying to mess with police officers and just making their already horribly difficult job even more life-threatening on the daily. But then we get something that's so much worse. We get like entire like places of business burned down, endless looting. We get so much violence in the streets, and this engulfs so many major cities. And then we have cunts like Chris Hayes, who's like, oh man, like can you imagine if Hitchens were alive today? He would be like writing about that major issue.
By the
Like,
way, Hayes, I don't think Hayes is wrong either. He'd probably be making, money off of it, and he'd probably be
yeah, oh,
writing about it.
what a sin, man! A
What a
journalist
sin.
making money.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah. No, again, this guy makes 6 times that much money. So, a year. Yeah. I want to continue on with the tweets, though. This one, because we looked at Claire Voltaire. Now let's take a look at a brainlet. David Marcus, I didn't even know who this guy was until like right before the stream. I was like, maybe I should look up who this guy is. Is he big? Is this going to be like me talking about Cardi B and like who's that? And people are going to be like, wait, how do you not know who that is? Turns out, no, he's got less than 10,000 followers. Which, like, by the way, how does he have a check mark when he has less than 10,000? I'm not sure how that works, but anyway, he tweets in reply to Hayes. Imagine going back further with Irving Kristol, the OG ghoul, the neocon ghoul himself, with Irving Kristol, Daniel Bell, and the other disillusion. And then this guy who is like left wing, he's doing like, it turns out he's doing a book on like left wing history and stuff, and like, progressive history and all this. And he's like, he's woke. He now turns on nose picker Nick Fuentes mode and says, disillusioned Trotskyists turn neocons. Which, by the way, that's a buzzword right there. Like, even if he's doing it unintentionally, because for a couple years, Irving Kristol was part of the Trotskyist type of club at his school in New York. When he looks back on those days and stuff, he's like, basically, like, I'm paraphrasing here, but he says it was like, yeah, but it was partly for the memes. Like, we were kids and stuff. And like he didn't say it was for the memes. He said that it was like largely like, that it was largely it's something that he looks back on with jest. But and he talked about how it like helped him kind of like develop the idea of like, compiling arguments together, arguing against like the Stalinist type people and that kind of stuff and everything. He saw, like, he obviously got disillusioned with that. He went on to be a champion of the American order. He's a neoconservative. This guy, okay, disillusioned Trotskyists, turned neocons, also just ended up discontented substackers. So I'll let Reese speak on this, but I just wanted to say first, this is a meme out there, the whole Trotskyites, neocons, or Trotskyite things. That's typically a meme that you see tossed around by people who go after my ears and what ethnicity that implies I am. You don't usually see the progressives really go that route, but okay, interesting.
Maybe it's like some kind of he feels betrayed, because Hitchens obviously had a Marxist phase, and it's like, wow, yeah, these guys used to be based, but then what happened, man? They turned into neocon ghouls, man.
No, you know what's so funny though? You know what's so funny about it is that, to my knowledge, Christopher Hitchens always still considered himself a Marxist of sort on economics, and additionally, he never actually considered himself to be a neocon. Like, but the term gets tossed around so much that, like, oh, okay, obviously Irving Kristol is a neocon, sure. But like, yeah, he literally was a neocon. But like Christopher Hitchens or Irving Kristol was. Christopher Hitchens had never owned the term
No,
neocon. So
he wasn't really a guy for labels later on in life.
True.
Like he kind of transcended that, and he was more like, I almost saw him taking the side of the Bush administration as this very fascinating thought experiment, to be like, obviously he agreed largely with the war effort, but it was still surprising for a lot of people to see someone like Hitchens, who is this outspoken atheist, take the side of the very Christian administration. And so a lot of people were angry with Hitchens about that, because they saw him as kind of like, he was giving credibility to the administration, a certain eloquence that maybe they didn't have, which is debatable. But I have heard people say that before, which is very interesting. But
Yeah.
talking about Trotskyists, like that's a dead giveaway. Like that, you couldn't represent horseshoe theory more perfectly than by showing that tweet.
Well, it's
That's
just
very alarming.
I've gotten bombarded earlier on in the channel. They don't really stick around too much anymore. Usually it's like communists and stuff these days or just random trolls. But earlier on, people will remember back, if you're one of like the OG followers of my work, you'll remember when I did the Graper Wars series. And we got flooded. Those are some of the most watched shows, most watched streams and videos on this channel. And we got flooded with Nick Fuentes fanboys and henchcocks that would come in here and they would simp for Nick, and they call me a Trotskyite. They'd say I had the ears of the Jew, that kind of stuff, and the big ears, that kind of thing, which is hilarious. And I've talked with like Jewish friends of mine and stuff. They thought it was hilarious. They're like, Jew ears? That's a new one.
Ears.
Ears. So it became a meme. It became a meme, and they would constantly do the whole, this guy might sound like he's trying to be a conservative, but make no mistake, he's a Trotskyist. Except I've never really called myself like a conservative necessarily. I call myself the liberal neocon, but to them, neocon is Trotskyism. So like they if you go and watch interviews with Bill Kristol, for example, like I went to go and watch an OG clip from about 10 years ago with David Brooks and Bill Kristol, and they were talking about the neoconservative persuasion, which is the collection of essays by Bill Kristol's dad from the 40s through to like 2009. And they had a good chat for about half an hour, and it was pretty informative and whatnot. And Bill Kristol was basically saying, because Brooks brought up the Trotskyism thing, and Bill Kristol's just like, oh yeah, but like even my dad was like, yeah, but it was kind of a joke. Basically, it's just kind of a funny point. In the comments of that, it's like people from the last 10 years up to like a couple months ago saying like, look at these warmongers who want to sacrifice American blood for their Trotskyist agenda so that Israel can take over the world and all this kind of stuff. And you're like, and now we got a progressive dude who I'm guessing this Marcus guy, probably wouldn't feel too comfortable being in the company of like Nick Fuentes and Andrew Anglin and David.
Surprised.
I don't know. Surprised. I don't know. May I'm naive. May I'm naive because I know that like there is the Corbyn side of people that would own it, but I feel like a lot of the American progressives, they aren't intentionally anti-Semitic or anything. They'll see a Stone Toss piece, not know who Stone Toss is, and think, oh yeah, he's going after capitalism, bro. Let's retweet that or what. I don't know. I definitely know that the Corbynites would be like, oh yeah, it's Stone Toss. He hates Jews. Let's retweet it. But I don't know. Like, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just giving him the benefit of the doubt here. It's just I would be surprised if this like progressive dude that I'm sure Nick Fuentes would call degenerate is actually comfortable with them and vice versa. I don't know. Maybe horseshoe theory is worse than I thought. I don't know. But
even if it's inadvertent, it's still pretty funny. And it's very historically dubious as we just explained. But I mean, as if the Chris Hayes take wasn't bad enough on its own. We needed that take on top of it.
Well, we got another take here. This one's from a guy that you're probably familiar with. This is from Spooky Nookies.
Oh man, that guy is terrible.
I know, right? That guy's a big yikes. I heard that guy actually. He thinks the mobs are a big deal.
That guy's like a warmonger. Why are we amplifying his message?
That guy's hawkish. He loves bombing people.
He loves bombing children, man.
By the way, oh man, so that used to be in your cover pick, or it might still be in your cover pick.
Nope, it changed, my dude. It changed. That's
right. Yours is this now. Okay, that's yours. But I came across an account because an account followed me the other day, Cringe Castly, and I was like, oh, I wonder whose sock this is. Turns out The only person that's following it is a guy who's got me blocked. So I'm like, oh, that's probably the guy who made it. That guy has a tweet of mine from over a year ago when I said, oh, here's a nightmare of mine. Tanky Tulsi wins or whatever. And it's like, wait, but that's not really like a gotcha that he could be dunking on me over because Tanky Tulsi lost bigly. It's still in his cover pick. And I'm still blocked. I forgot that this guy existed, but obviously here he is making an account going after me, and it's one of my pictures from like a year ago, and it just says cringe overlaid on it. So it's like, that's very clever. He got that from Dylan Meisner, which like Dylan Meisner doesn't even run with that anymore. But it's like, again, if you're out there and you're hate watching, Ghastly Castly, it's more effective. It's a better nickname. Cringe Castly is weak and people think you look uncreative. Just a pro tip. So, but getting back to the article, or to the reply rather, Reese tweets, just one of those articles would be worth more than your entire career. Quote, if Hitchens were alive, he'd be getting paid to cover significant current events, end quote. Yes, and then it's in reply to that. And what's unfortunate is that you only have like 15 likes there. Whereas Chris Hayes gets like all these, like, what was it, 4,000 likes or whatever. And I'm like, wait, like, I know he's got more of a following and whatnot and everything, but like, it's not worthy of that many likes. Even somebody who's big like Kyle, somebody who's huge like Kyle, where he'll tweet out something and he'll get a couple thousand likes. When he tweeted out thanks F word, that one didn't get a couple thousand likes. That one, people were kind of like, ooh, that's kind of weird. This isn't that caliber, but shouldn't people that are following him just be like, yo, I like your work, but like, why are you obsessed with Hitchens? Wouldn't that be a normal response? Instead, we got a lot of stuff like this. I could pull up more replies. It's just, it was weak. It was weak. And I mean, I guess it's the sort of thing that when you get big on Twitter, you can really say anything and you'll have the simps. Maybe that's it. So, I don't know. Chris says,
oh yeah, there's definitely truth to that. And I don't know, man. I've never really had a big Twitter following, to be quite honest with you. It just is what it is. What I have to say is a little upsetting to some people.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. There was a comment, there was a reply by guy Marlowe who said Hitchens from his current residence still runs intellectual circles around you. That got 331 likes. That's pretty good. We've got, yeah, I'm just looking through the replies right now. It's just, it's one of those tweets where you're always like, it's symbolic. It signifies the degree of rent-free that Christopher Hitchens lives in this guy's head. It's just, again, it's hilarious. It's like if Janie died tomorrow, Kyle would be tweeting about him 9 years from now. We all know that. So, yeah.
You know what it is a lot of these like inferior men, they feel safe now to attack Hitchens, obviously, because they're like, well, if he's not here, he can't defend himself. So I'm just going to take a couple pot shots at Hitchens. I think that the rest of us who have even had some passing appreciation of Hitchens and his work should absolutely ratio these people. Every time they open their dumb mouths, they think like, yes, finally, my intellectual jousting will be complete. Hitchens can't reply to me. I can say whatever I want. And okay, that's true. Hitchens can't defend himself, but you have awoken a different kind of mob, my friend, and they will not be forgetting about this anytime soon, and as it should be, because and some people's replies were just brutal. Like, yeah, man, people still remember Hitchens. Clearly, you still remember Hitchens because of his legacy and because of what he stood for. Is anyone going to remember you? Like, who are you? What do you believe in?
He'll be replaced with another dude. There will be another dude that will come in and can do his job and read stuff off of a teleprompter. Like, there are very few of these reporter type people that will ever have a lasting legacy. Like, I don't like the guy, but Tucker Carlson will probably be remembered. Chris Hayes probably won't. And Rachel Maddow probably will, though. Hayes, not really that kind of caliber. Whether you agree with them or not, there are people out there that, they'll have more of a legacy than others who just kind of, do your standard sort of framework and whatnot and everything. And Hayes, yeah, nobody's really going to remember him. They'll remember Maddow. They're not going to remember Hayes. That's my prediction, But
I'll tell you what it is. Like, Hitchens, for me, he transcended just being a person. Like, he's almost become an archetype for me. I'll constantly find myself asking, where is the modern Hitchens? Like, yeah. I'm looking for somebody of that caliber. I'm looking for a true champion of human rights in 2020. And there's no one who's even close, man. There was no one like Hitchens. Hitchens, he was the Mozart of political commentary in the early 2000s. You can't top that. As much, and the thing is, it's not like I always agreed with him. I'm sure there were things, and obviously, he had his Marxist phase, so I disagreed with that. But he was always going to be a challenging opponent. He was a very thoughtful person.
Well, I'll say this too about his Marxist phase, because like I've read like I've read some of Hitchens, and one of the things that Hitchens talks about was how, back when he was a Marxist, he actually went to Cuba to stand in solidarity with the comrades, which it's like, look, if you're going to be communist, at least walk the walk. And he did. And he saw what it was, and he got disillusioned. Do we see Hassan Piker doing that with North Korea? No. So, they don't do it. They don't do it.
And really, there's no excuse, because I would gladly pay to have him sent over.
Oh, absolutely. We could do like a GoFundMe on this channel. Be like, give him a one-way.
He could go for a tour, and he could see all the fruit stands. It would be awesome.
The bananas, the pears,
fake carrots, fake fruits.
Do you ever, Reese? I got to ask you a question. I know it's getting late, but do you ever feel like a plastic bag floating through the wind?
Man, it's funny memes. He likes Western music, man.
He likes Western music, as he points one of these at the production studio in Greater Los Angeles that made that record. So, by the way, that I gotta say, I want to comment them or compliment them on something. I just want to say, I know it's got a range of like 16,000 kilometers, and that's impressive and all, and like the physics and stuff and everything. That's cool. But like, what really impressed me about this thing was just, how peaceful they made this ICBM. I gotta say, that's the most peaceful nuclear ICBM I've ever seen. It's a very peaceful nuclear program going on in North Korea. It's fiery, but mostly peaceful. So. I
think that if you try to portray that as being violent, it's a very unfortunate caricature of Asian culture.
That's right. That's Orientalism. You're just implying that, like, oh, the little Asian man he's just angry, right?
Man, you called him a thug. That comes from the Indian thuggy. You're racist, man.
You're racist, man. It's like a cool pooter. He's always like, you racist.
I don't think everyone here is going to get that, because we talked about it on Henry's channel. But I mentioned how offhand I saw one of the worst takes about the last presidential debate. Our friend Max Blumenthal, not really our friend, but a guy we know. He was talking about how racist it was and Orientalist for Joe Biden to call Kim Jong-un a thug, which I commented was the most G-rated insult that you possibly could apply to the guy. But so he called him a thug, and Henry was supposing that it came from kind of this Indian Asian tradition. So there's a thuggy cult in India, And I think that is where the word thug came from. But it doesn't matter the history of the word, the fucking etymology. Like, what are we even talking about? Like, we're talking about how we should be really talking about how modern people use words. When people use the word thug, yeah, they're not usually thinking of some obscure Indian cult that doesn't have any significance in the modern day. So that's when you know someone's like really lost the debate, when they start to like try to break down the meaning of words and like go into like the history of language. It's just like, shut up.
Yeah.
Good God, man. Like, this is such a blatant attempt to get people to say things that they never meant and put words in their mouths. It's like, I mean, like, really, Max Blumenthal should have just said what he really believes. He should have just said, I don't think Kim Jong-un is a thug. I think he's a good guy. He's my guy. So don't try to like turn tanky like dictatorial defense into like this woke thing. No, that's so weird. Like, and they'll always do that. Like, I saw this thread recently, and it was like this Kim Jong-il stan account, and like there's like this whole community of people. They're such losers. I don't even remember their names because I purged my memory of such filth. But they were like going on, having like this argument over like, people's pronouns. But I was like, who the fuck? Like, excuse me, there's like an elephant in the room here.
Wait,
like, who cares about
Kim Jong-il list? This was the Kim Jong-il list that were doing the pronoun. Wait, but like Kim Jong-il, how do you round it and shot as an F word for that kind of stuff in this country? That's what they would have called you, right? Like, they don't tolerate freedom of sexual identity in North Korea. Like, wow.
I'm saying thuggy. I'm Indian, and I did not know that was Indian. Yeah, it is. This is kind of a Hollywoodized depiction, but it's going to be most people's exposure. If you remember the film Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, obviously that takes place in India, and the villains are the Thuggee cult. They're worshippers of Kali. But it's kind of an older idea. Like, it's not really. I don't think that particular sect has much significance now, because it would be like akin to a devil worshipping cult to an extent. Kali is not one of the most prominent deities in Hinduism. Typically, like, you're not going to find someone on the street who's like, man, I worship Kali. Like, it would be a little strange. It would be like finding someone who said they worship the devil, or whatever, something like that.
I found the Blumenthal tweet. I'm just gonna.
Oh God!
I believe this is the one. He tweets a lot, and they're all just ridiculous. But here we go. Biden calls an attempt. Yeah, quote. Biden calls an attempt to broker a peace deal favored by 80% of South Koreans. Okay, I gotta stop it right there. Oh, it turns out 80% of people that live in the Sudetenland favor Hitler. Okay, yeah. There's a big problem with isolationism in South Korea right now, and a lot of propaganda by the Moon type party and the Sunshine brand of people that are trying to brand the North as their brothers and whatnot and everything. And yeah, they managed to con a lot of people that would otherwise be apolitical into tacitly supporting it because peace sounds good. Yeah, that doesn't mean that the 20% are wrong. It makes them pilled. It makes them, hawks. But anyway, 80% of South Koreans, quote unquote, embracing thugs in North Korea. The ghost of Scoop Jackson animates today's Democratic Party. So that must be a different tweet. Oh, wait, he means that as a negative, by the way. I just want to be clear that he means that as a negative. Invoking Jackson.
I was talking about another tweet, but I hadn't seen this one before. See, the thing is, like, he only tweets about like one thing, so really you could just go to his account, find anything, and it would be worth putting on screen.
Yeah. Speaking of what Reese was just saying right now, I have proof positive in favor of Dr. Nuki's claim right there. This is a random one that was 3 up that just happened to catch my eye. This is also from the debate series of tweets from Mr. Blumenthal. Quote, this is him saying, Kristen Welker, quote, how are you going to make China pay? End quote, which again, here we go. Quote, the careerist droids, okay, that's fun, that populate corporate U.S. media never push candidates to say how peace will be made or how diplomacy can be initiated. I've got a lot of thoughts already. They are soulless megaphones for the war state. Oh, so it used to be the deep state. Now it's the war state disguised as journalists. Wait, so I criticize the sort of corporate mainstream media, whatever you will, as constantly favoring this sort of like neoliberal aim of like free trade and diplomacy over like doing the hard thing and like sanctions or blockade or outright war in cases. They support Obama. Obama wanted to do nothing about North Korea and hope that they would go away. Or how peace will be made. What are they talking about? What are they talking about? They literally cheerleaded for the Iran deal and then criticized the Orange Man for pulling out of it. What is he talking about? Diplomacy. The problem is they do diplomacy all the time and do diplomacy so much they can't tell when it's not working and other means need to be taken. And I'm not saying never do diplomacy. It's just you have to negotiate in good faith. That can happen. You can make negotiations in good faith. In fact, even the Russians and the U.S. did negotiations in good faith. They were able to bring their nukes down from 40,000, 25,000 to about 8,000 each. That was a place where they actually had good faith negotiations in the 90s. But with North Korea, good faith, no, it's too late for diplomacy. They've been given their chance. What world is this guy living in? What do you mean? The problem is they do too much, that it's the death of them. That's amazing. The war state.
That's amazing.
What war state? Like if this is the war state, then what is this channel? Like if CNN, if NBC is the war state, then what the hell is superpower broadcasting? Like I call us the home of the Hawks, but like he's saying that that's NBC. What are we now? Like the home of the mega uber Hawks? Amazing. That's amazing. That is so dumb. That's just a random tweet. That's Max Blumenthal.
Yeah, no, that's terrible. Just to answer something in the chat really quick. W.R. Winter said, thought the cult and Temple of Doom was fictional, wasn't a Kali Ma. I think Kali Ma was a religious chant. The cult was fictional in that film, just to throw that out there, but it was based on historical groups. But that movie, don't get me wrong, I love that movie, but it is kind of criticized for having a very exaggerated portrayal of some elements of Indian culture, which is fine. It's a fucking movie. But yes, I don't want anyone thinking that I think that this was like a historical film. just so we're clear.
Oh man.
Yeah,
I found the
fucking idiot, man.
I think I found the thug tweet. This let me know if this is the one that you were thinking of. This one's pure cringe, dude. This okay. He writes.
Yeah. Oh wait, no. You know what? This is a different one.
Holy my
shit,
god!
How many times is he gonna tweet about this?
So he's done 3 of these in one night. Then okay, quote: the racist language Biden uses for leaders of global South nations, thugs, is the same language he used to market the cry bill. Dun 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 dun. Got him. We got him. Wow, what a brain
bars.
This is an adult, and there's a chance that Pro Thing, by the time he's Max Blumenthal's age, is gonna be like 5 times more intelligent. Like this guy's at Pro Thing level right now, and this guy's like, what is he in his 30s? Like, at least with Pro Thing, he's probably like 17 years old, or at least he looks 17. Like Blumenthal, oh my god, dude! These guys are ridiculous. Imagine unironically taking this guy seriously. By the way, like he's a caricature. It's truly incredible. Maybe he deleted the other thug tweet. For some reason, I'm not able to find it, but there was another
He's
tweet.
just done so many. He's having a normal one. Like this is the kind of guy he'll tweet.
It's like Jimmy. Just
15 tweets about the same topic.
He's having a normal one like Jimmy.
Yeah, no, they're triggered about that. Oh man, like yeah, in the 90s when we had this like unprecedented crime wave, yeah, a couple of politicians they put forward this bill in order to, better police troubled neighborhoods. And yeah, they use the word thug. What's exactly wrong with that? Yeah, there were a lot of thugs in the 90s. So what the fuck are you talking about? Like, man, that's like so dehumanizing. How is that dehumanizing? Dude,
but Reese,
saying that they're not human.
Now you're sounding problematic like Joe Biden, though, Reese. So you don't want to sound like Joe Biden.
Such a problematic individual.
You don't want to sound like Joe Biden, do you? He's hawkish. He loves bombing people.
Oh God! Like, it's just. It never ends, man. Like all they have are these. All they can really harp on are these talking points from the 90s, and they can't really address like modern day Joe Biden, who is very, very different from 90s Joe Biden. And these issues, like talking about any of this shit, talking about how he voted in the Iraq War. The crime, these are not relevant issues. Like no normal person cares about any of this shit. No one's going to the polling station like, man, like, I'd vote for him, but that crime bill in 1995, no one gives a fuck about that. Dude,
but Reese,
there are people voting who weren't fucking alive when that happened. Do you understand that?
That's actually true. There are people voting who weren't alive when that happened. That would have been 7 years old at the time when the people who are just young enough to vote now were born, and they still weren't alive at that time. Like,
absolutely.
Dude,
it's not exactly this time, but by the point of next election, we'll have people who are old enough to vote who were born after the launch of the Iraq War. And no one should care about that either.
And Kyle's still going to be talking to them like they're not going to understand why he's so obsessed with it either. They're going to think he's like an old timer boomer, keeps on talking about
what are you talking about, old man?
But we got RDF Net 7 here. And by the way, if you guys haven't seen, go check out my interview, Hawk Talk with Kevin Castley, episode 7. We brought on Net 7. It was a good interview. We went a couple hours. He's a cool guy, huge supporter of the channel, done great work, and we appreciate his generosity. He's based. He says, I have a South Korean friend who lives in the U.S. He is completely opposed to a deal with the Kim criminal family, and it's sad to see how Korea is following the appeasement policy. Yeah, that's the thing. That 80%, that's not good. That's not something that you can be like, oh, 80% of the domesticated rabbits in the Cobra tank want to go over and sniff the snake and see what he smells like and if he's friendly. No, that means that only 20% of the rabbits there actually are like, oh shit, how do we get out of here? We're dinner, Like that's like I've said this before, like with the Nick Fuentes type people, the people who say Russia's our friend. It reminds me of like those nature videos and stuff where like you see the dumb animals and sometimes you see the smart animals and whatnot, but different types of prey. But generally speaking, there are prey that are evolved to recognize a predator in the wild. But if you take a domesticated animal and you put it in the wild, or you put it in the context of a predator, a lot of them don't recognize that that's actually a predator, and they'll like sniff it as if it's friendly, and then they'll get devoured. That's what the alt-right always reminded me of, because like Russia's our friend. It's like, oh yeah, because friends point this kind of shit at friends. That's what friends do right here. Like that's
well, you clearly don't have exciting friends. I don't know what to tell you, man.
Yeah, they just they're the kinds of friends that you can play Russian roulette with. It's like
Russian roulette with nukes.
that's
well, this silo's empty, but the next one might not be.
Hey man, that sounds pretty spooky. It's like, I mean, ghosts and goblins, man. Speaking of goblins, right?
Happy Halloween!
Happy Halloween. That's right. You're watching Halloween with spooky nookies right now. It doesn't get spookier than that. I mean, oh my god, this is Liz's worst nightmare here. I mean, you got the ghouls, you got the spooks. You got this guy.
Liz is already living her worst nightmare, which was definitively losing the Patreon war to you.
Oh yeah, even more than the debate. I think that's what did it. I mean,
she cared a lot more about the grift than the content of the debate. Let's be real.
We nipped the grift in the bud before she became a poor man's Dave Rubin, basically. So think about
that. more like a poor man's ContraPoints.
Oh man, yeah, that's true. Oh man.
Oh my god, that's a transphobic comment, sir.
Yeah, you guys, what is this? Is this turf broadcasting?
Turf broadcasting. That's a boomer name if there ever was one.
No, that's true. A boomer name. Boomer broadcasting, dude. That would be an even more boomer name, except it would probably be like a Chapo guy who created it, because they're obsessed with calling people boomers. But I like this one by W.R. Winter. Aiming ICBMs at each other is a sign of just how deep our bond is, like banter between pals. Yeah, I mean, like, think about it. What makes a deeper crater than a ground bursted ICBM with a 9 megaton warhead? I have an answer. It's an 11 megaton warhead.
Good answer.
It's true. You can look it up. It's true.
You know what that reminds me of is, hey, Patrick, I thought of something funnier than 24. What is it? 25.
25.
Somebody turn that into a nuke pill meme quick.
Oh man. Okay, so on the topic of the memes, we were talking in the hot gang earlier. A great idea, and actually, this is just so potent. I just want to let everybody know that Kamaljeet Ram. I'm not sure if she. Oh no, she's still in the chat. She tweeted or wrote in the chat like 4 minutes ago. Kamaljeet made a wiki for the Ian Stevens debacle. So you can look up under lolcal fandom. You can look up Ian Stevens, and he's there. And there's a bunch of I'm gonna just bring it up right now. So you guys all in the chat right now get exclusive access to the wiki for Ian Stevens. It's right here. Everybody go check it out. It's worth a read if you want to get up to date on the drama. It's pretty impartial and objective too. I mean, it's a pretty accurate recount of what transpired between us. We're going to be making a Hawkipedia, though. It's going to be like a massive database of all the memes, the figures, the dates of interest, the tweets, all that kind of stuff. It's all going to be there. The drama, the debates, all that kind of stuff. So, hopefully it'll be like an open source thing. I'm not going to have time to really add anything to it. But if you guys want to add to Hawkipedia, that sounded like it's going to be a thing that's going to happen. So that's going to be exciting. But yeah, this is it right here. It's lolcal.fandom.com/wiki/Ian Stevens. Ian Stevens. So, and we can take a look at it. I mean, you got his face there. I like this. You know what? We'll even do more. We'll do you guys. I mean, we'll go above and beyond here. Not like Chris Hayes with a teleprompter. We're not low energy like that here. We got high energy vibes going on tonight. We're actually gonna
Low stamina, Chris.
low stamina. Yeah, we're actually gonna take a look at this thing. I believe it should be on the screen right now. Yeah, it is. Okay. We're actually gonna read. No, we're actually going to read through it. We actually, of course, we're going to read through it. So, history. Ian Stevens, jokingly called Even Stevens by those in the Twitter hot community, coined by Kevin Castley. I'm not actually sure if that's accurate or not. I'm pretty sure it was. Wait, who coined Even Stevens? Was that you? That may have been you. Anyway,
I really don't remember. It was one of us.
It was one of us. Yeah, a prominent figure in the hot community on Twitter. Ian Stevens was challenged to a debate by Kevin Castley. Stevens had claimed that he needed some time to debate and needed and there's the actual quote here. It's not just his school computer, it's the actual quote. This is actually for the historical record, this is actually what he said. Access to actual computer equipment at school. This is spawned very this is spawned various memes. This is made like a week ago. It was only brought to my attention recently. This has spawned various memes by Neocon / Hawk Twitter. He has made many claims saying that he would, quote, not embarrass himself like Liz did. See, I feel like there needs to be now a thing for Liz so that people can be like, what's Liz? And then go and check that out.
There's so many in jokes, man.
There's so many in jokes. Yeah. Even though Liz debated Kevin. According to some on the hot community and even those who follow Liz, she lost. Well, Liz herself admitted that she lost. She posted that Burns thing being like, oh, I can't defeat Kevin, but you can. Anyway, although she lost, she still debated Kevin. Whether Ian actually plans on debating Kevin is unknown, and whether he plans to address the questions he has been receiving from the hot community is unknown. Ian Stevens had unblocked Kevin Castley and then blocked him again after Kevin made a joke about Ian getting his quote-unquote school computer. Okay, actions. Blocking. Ian Stevens has a history of blocking those who ask him when the debate was blocked by. Oh yeah, he has also banned those who send school computer memes. Some of the people that have been blocked on Twitter by Stevens include Kevin Castley, Kamal Jeet Ram, Spooky Nookies, formerly known as Nightmare Fuel. He's right here, and anyone who follows either of these three. Yeah, it's kind of true. Deleting tweets. Stevens has deleted tweets that pertain to the debate that was supposed to happen in mid-August. That's true. He deleted them recently, as supposed to happen with Kevin Castley of Superpower Broadcasting. Kevin has called Ian Stevens out on this and has been demanding. Where was it? Has been demanding an answer. Ian Stevens acts as though the conversations he had with Kevin never happened, and this has caused annoyance among those who follow Castley. Reese of Spooky Nookies has commented on this, saying that Stevens has no excuse when it comes to debating Kevin Castley. So you've got the screenshots there. You got We Won. That's by Cool Pooter. All hail Ghoul Pooters. There's a lot of things in here that if a random person were to just look at this, they wouldn't get. But we have a wiki now to explain it for you all. I like this one down here, hawked.com. That one, I was saying to Reese, hey man, these are wholesome memes. Not anymore. That one's not so wholesome. Hawk.com.
But it's easily the funniest one.
I can't actually bring it up there. I'll see if I can bring it up exclusively without just going to random Twitter stuff. But oh man, that yeah.
So just out of curiosity, so did Kamalji Ram make this? Is that what you said? Yeah. Okay, so I along with the memes, I'm hoping that somebody has sent this to Ian. Just because it would be really funny if he saw this.
Oh, do you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I just cut out for a second. it cut out for like less than half a second, but I was worried that it might have a lingering latency issue. But okay, so there was an account that tweeted at me earlier on this evening that said, sent it, or no, it wasn't a tweet. It was within the group. Somebody sent it to Ian directly because I think there's like only one or two people in the group that aren't blocked by him. So, yeah. So he, for what we know, he at least has been sent it. So there's a question as to whether he's seen it or not. He's seen all of the memes up till now. He's not happy with the memes. He'd like them to go away. He doesn't want to debate me, mind you. He doesn't want to debate me, and he doesn't want to apologize to me. But he just wants me to like forget about this stuff. Except, how can I forget about this stuff? This stuff is the funniest. This is so hilarious, mind you, that even if I stopped talking about it, there would still be cool pooter references and stuff on Twitter because it's the funniest excuse of the decade. Like it's not even close. It's not even close. Like what Wyatt said, it would be a terrible excuse in 2005. And I've had a couple people from Globe Twitter contact me and say, like, I just wanted to tell you that a lot of people now think that you're a total joke because you won't let this go and everything. And I'm like, and of course, to me, like, I don't care because it's like, I know that if I did the same thing with Liz, none of them would be saying that Liz was a joke for asking, why won't Kevin still debate me? None of them would. None of them would say that she looked obsessed, but they think that I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. It's like what Reese was talking about. It's like, we're always held to a double standard, with these. People. So,
absolutely. Those people don't like you to begin with. So who cares if they're like, man, you lost my respect. You never had their respect to begin with, so who cares?
Yeah, this is the one right here. I'll just remove the Chiron. This is So it's no longer wholesome at this point. My favorite part about this one though is that there are two Kevins here.
Yeah, that I always thought that was weird.
What? I'm not sure exactly who made. Oh, it was Kanzik, I guess. Maybe he ran out of Hawks to put in here, but there are two of me.
He could have put Wyatt or somebody else.
That's right. He could have put George Bush or Dick Cheney or something. I don't know, but or Bolton or even just a Hawk head or something. But you know what? He was rushed and he wanted to make a meme. My favorite part is just Hawked. That's for me. That's right there. Hawk dog. That's hilarious. That's potent. But he asked for it, and look, this is what happens when you tweet stuff like this, and then you back out. So it happens when you tweet stuff like this when I'm blocked. So it happens when you do stuff like this, because the elitist bullshit. Yeah, man. Look, let's keep it real. It would have been working class neocon versus elitist realist. That would have been the debate. Well, I'd say the debate of the decade, except that was with Liz. So, but it would have been one for the ages. But he was too chicken. By the way, he admits that he thinks that I'm stupid and he's scared to debate me. Imagine if he thought I was smart. This guy can't debate anybody. Again, I asked the question: how does he expect to become Secretary of State when he can't handle any challenge on anything? I don't get it. And he won't apologize. It's like he just wants me to forget. He underestimated the community. We have Kamal Jeed asking, how was the wiki page? It's fire. It's basically it's like a 10 out of 10. And again, I'm the kind of guy who I always use the logarithmic scales. I don't really give out 10s, but it's a 10. It's a 10. It's a 10. That is so potent. The only thing that's missing is more of them for Liz and the Brainlet Brigades and the Aggressive Gremlins.
It's such a massive project.
It's such a massive project. I
wouldn't be mad if she was like, no, it's gonna take a while or it's not happening.
I was watching a video earlier on tonight actually because somebody was saying dude, it's like you haven't even watched the basic tips on how to promote your channel or all this shit or whatever. Basically, like making fun of me for, you know, not like basically have been doing this for over a year or not having, you know, like a Kyle level subscriber base, which like I don't care. But I was like, oh, okay, so I'll just, you know, check out what are like some of the videos out there. What's their advice for new YouTubers and all this stuff? And one of the things that stood out to me was, which was funny, was from this one video where they were like, here's a bit of advice. Like, don't really do like the inside jokes or like make titles about inside jokes or any of that sort of stuff, because like you're not going to get like new audience or anything. And I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, but like, then where's the fun? Like
Exactly.
the jokes, they're part of what make this channel. Like, this is another thing that I'm talking about is like, even if we get up to like even if it takes a long time to get to 10,000 subscribers, the whole time along the way, we're going to be absolutely dunking on the haters and traitors. We're going to be clowning on the aggressive gremlins. We're going to be absolutely eviscerating the brainlet brigades. We're having fun. I know people say like, oh, dude, like, you know, like how sad and everything. And when like, what is sad? What's sad? You know what's sad is for somebody who doesn't even have a YouTube channel to criticize somebody who does. like, I mean, I don't know, man. It's just, I always find it funny when like, oh, let me lecture you on what you're doing wrong, says somebody who hasn't even started the game yet. Okay. Like what? Like what? That's like taking, you know, here's a boomerism for you all. That's like taking advice on how to win in the wilderness from a guy who hasn't even created his RuneScape account yet. Like, I ain't taking his advice, man. I ain't taking his advice. Like, I mean, like, okay, you know, hashtag boomer Kevin, right? You know, but
Man, RuneScape, that's like so 20 years ago, man.
years ago, man. No, what's funny is like if I go to RuneScape right now, there's probably at least 10,000 people on the servers right now. So, you know, at least. Like a lot of people play RuneScape. By the way, I haven't actually played RuneScape in a long time, like 8 or 9 years at least. But it's kind of a cool game. Like, it's revolutionary. That game's going in the history books of like, you know, video games and stuff for sure. Like, they'll still talk about RuneScape in like 1,000 years in like video game classes and stuff, you know. It's like for background, you know. It's, you know, as far as MMOs and stuff, it's one of the greats. So, you know, 1v. Oh, WR Winter says 1v1 me in Wildy. Yeah, except that my account got banned like 10 years ago, but I would have.
You have to make a new based account.
That's true.
So
that's true.
Kamaji Ram said that she would get on a few other pages for the wiki, which is a funny idea. Hey, you know, don't stress yourself out. You know, if other things are, you know, basically take care of yourself first. But because it is, I mean, to do a page for like every reference or every inside joke is a monumental task.
Because I can just imagine, like in the comments, somebody will reply in the comments like, "What's Liz?" or "Why spooky nookies?" This kind of stuff, and then there'll be like a page on it and stuff and everything. And like, I don't know, man. I think the idea of a Hockapedia that just has all the nicknames and like all the memes and all the inside jokes, all of the moments of like how you gonna pay for it, and like. But that's insane, man. That's insane because, like, I mean, there's so much over the last year and a half, you know. And for you, Reese, like you've obviously been on YouTube for a lot longer. There are probably a lot more inside jokes and stuff associated with your channel. Obviously, Skeptic Clone is one of my favorites. That's never not going to be hilarious to me. Like, oh, Fat Greg wants his royalties, man. You're wearing a suit. That's hilarious. I guess it's like kind of a boomerism now because it was a while ago. That's still hilarious, dude. The trademark, dude. That's that's funny.
He did that to everyone. Like that. It got so bad. Like I don't think you even know this, but the Fat Greg thing was so bad. He apologized over it. because Logic made a video making fun of him, and Fat Greg was like, and obviously I got referenced in that video, but then Fat Greg was like, okay, fine, I take it back.
Oh man, Kamaljeet says, yeah, I'm doing it for Liz, but I have school. It may take a while. Well, I only have one question though. Do you have your school computer? Because I know a guy who doesn't. So like, hopefully you'll be able to do school. Because I wouldn't be able to do school without my school computer. So you gotta have your school computer.
I can't do debates, man. I need my school computer.
Cool pooter. No, it's like there were so many, like there have been so many, like, I mean, it's basically like evolved now to the point of like kind of like how like old English was in like unintelligible to people like us. Like we could probably only go back about 500 years and understand what people were actually saying. Kind of like this. Like somebody could maybe understand the school computer thing, but then you get into like this thing. Like there's a lot going on here. Like you've got the acid school computer, you've got all hail the nuke hawk, so that's the nuke pill reference. And you got cool pooter, so like that's the evolved version of school computer. Like there's so much here. It's like basically school computer is like old to middle English, and this is like Urban Dictionary at this point. That's the difference, Like we are progressing, we are ascending, I look forward to where it will be in 2 weeks,
There'll be 20 more inside jokes, I'm sure.
Oh, no doubt, dude. Kamaljeet Ram says, yeah, I have a school computer. That's good. I would hate for anybody to not have a school computer and try to do school. It's tough. So I mean, Ian knows. I mean, he was doing Harvard and Stanford and stuff, and he didn't have his computer. That must have been challenging. So, W.R. Winter says,
how did he do anything? Like, how do you get by? How did he register for classes? How did he file for anything?
iPhone, maybe. I guess
on his iPhone. he was filling out important forms on his iPhone. I mean, like that's just low IQ energy right there. Get a computer, get a laptop. It's 2020. You need a laptop. Your parents are loaded. Get a fucking laptop, you goober.
Yeah, but we lost Reese. Reese should be back very shortly. Nuke pooter. Oh yeah, we'll save this for when Reese gets back. He may get a kick. Okay, there he is. He's back. Okay, can you hear me, Reese?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what happened.
You can't.
It was Jaeger. He used the bandwidth, man.
Jaeger logged on to RuneScape, man, and it kicked you out.
Under RuneScape.
He was gonna go and fight. He was gonna go and fight W.R. Winter in the Wildy. He was like, "Hey man, if Kevin's account got banned, I'll go and kick Winter's ass in the Wildy." And obviously that was a lot of bandwidth. I mean, RuneScape is a very graphically intense application, so Wyoming internet couldn't handle it. So Nuke Pooter of Cools Incorporated says, "I got the Pooter part based on your conversation about Wyoming." And everything being isolated, I gotta get my pooter.
Man, I gotta get my pooter.
In Wyoming. Oh
Wyoming, man.
Living the Wyoming wife,
Don't you talk about my wife.
That's it. Like, okay, no, there's so many memes. It's amazing. It's amazing. And like again, so like yeah, they're for anybody that is new that comes to the channel and stuff. Yeah, I could see how they might not necessarily get it. That's why no pressure or anything. But if the Hawks have some free time and want to set up a wiki for all the memes and references and stuff, I'm sure a lot of the new Hawks would appreciate it because they might not necessarily get all the references. So. Like, because there are people that are subscribing to this channel and have been like watching some of my streams, and I've gotten messages and stuff from them, and they didn't see the Liz debate. I wasn't on the radar then. So that's and that's going to keep happening, right? But there's going to be other debates down the road and stuff, and obviously I'm expecting some meme-worthy moments from the Burns debate. You know, I mean, I don't think he's going to do like a Liz performance, but I'm expecting one of those questions to just, you know, kind of be one of those things like, but how are you going to pay for it without credit cards or something like that? You know, like there's going to be a moment like that. There's no way. I just, given his stance on North Korea, it's inevitable. So, you know, he might phrase it more intelligently, but there's going to be memes. There's always going to be memes.
Oh, obviously. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see
when that happens. At this point, it might be if that happens. I wouldn't be surprised to see him be like, "Man, I was joking. I didn't think you'd take it so serious, man."
Oh man, yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
my pooter. God, you people are awesome.
Oh man, yeah. You got to have your nuke pooter. Yeah. I just even his profile picture, like just the acid version of that debate me bro school computer lab thing, like it's gotten to a level where, like, to me it's beyond comprehension of how far this can go. But in 2 weeks we're going to be like, wow, the memes got even more intense, you know. But I mean, the longer he backs out of the debate, this is hilarious. But I like this question from Nicholas, though, asking about Fat Greg. He apologized for what? For being fat? No, you think it was the skeptic thing, right? The clone thing.
Yeah, it
right?
was the suit thing, because he basically, like, I was like the final straw. He had done that to a lot of people. Basically, anyone who had a suit, he would call them a clone. And finally, people, when they heard it with me, they'd had just about enough, which was so weird because when I was making my video, I didn't even really consider it at the time. Like, oh yeah, his avatar's wearing a suit and mine was wearing a suit. Well, a lot of people were wearing suits. Like, it didn't matter to me. He thought that I was modeling it after him. You know, how flattering to him. Like, he thought that he was like some influence of mine. I always thought that he was, you know, milquetoast and juvenile, and I didn't care about his content. It's not like I was a big fan or anything. I mean, I liked Kyle at one point more than I liked fucking Fat Greg. So,
I agree.
Like,
I agree. I used to watch Kyle a lot.
I agree with that.
I agree with that. Imagine thinking that same tier as Christopher Hitchens. Like, you know, you're a brainlet when. Oh man.
I never cared about Fat Greg, and then he became a meme, and I don't even know what he's doing now. But, like, I mean, he even bigger than the Skeptic clone thing was, like, you know, anytime he would talk about anything, all you could say is, you know what, Greg, maybe you should get back to debunking flat earthers. I think that would be a better use of your time.
He defended Russia too, and like, but they don't have the SJWs. Basically, I don't remember his exact line of argument.
That was
they don't have. They're not dealing with the same problems of feminism that we're dealing with here, and that kind of thing. And, like, you know,
well, yeah, obviously, because they suppress women's rights. You cunt.
Yeah, that guy,
man. This is Fat Greg logic. He would look at Pussy Riot and Russia and be like, man, what a bunch of feminazis.
Oh my
God. Fucking women, man.
Oh man, I'm just going through Kanzak's meme inventory here. I'm just going through the meme inventory because I'm trying to find more of these potent memes, and I came across one that he made. There's no way this isn't going up on the screen. This is another brainlet. This is a new generation of brainlet that he's dunking on now. So we were all talking about Greg, but now we're going to be talking about Vaush. And this one that we're
Vouch.
like,
That's a thing too. Vouch.
no, Zouse. See, like even Billy Bond came on, and he's like, what's the thing with Zouse? His name's Zayas. And it's like, yeah, like it became such a meme. Like I'm sure there are people that are like, it's Zayas, dude. But look, so Kanzik made this a couple weeks ago. I never saw this. I just saw this for the first time. This is hilarious. No. He has his school. He has his school pooter, and
It's got more going for him than Ian Stevens then.
yeah, that's. I have to be consistent. Oh man. Okay, okay. The Vouch thing. Okay. He needs his own page on here. We've talked about Vosh a lot. For the wiki. That's pretty funny. There's more. This guy is a top tier memer. 100%.
I'm so glad to say I've never seen a full Vouch stream. Like I've wasted my time on a lot of things, but I've never wasted that much time.
I've seen many. I have seen many. I can say that.
Do you feel enlightened and cultured? Do you feel like you spent your time wisely on those streams?
Yeah, it helped me keep up with the talking points of the opponents, so I kind of have to do it. If I wasn't running a YouTube channel dunking on the talking points, it would have been a waste of time. But he is more entertaining. He is more entertaining than Young Turks. I used to watch Young Turks for that. Now, if I have to choose between Vosh talking about something or Keek talking about something, I'm going with Vouch. So
Keek.
Yeah,
Jack, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of them right there. So Kamalji Ram came up with a nickname for him that I don't even think I can repeat on air, but she tweeted it out with censors in it, like asterisk. But basically, I can get across what it is. It's horse, and then it's a word that starts with R and ends with ape, and then jank. So.
I did see that.
Yeah, and if you saw the clips of him the other day on the show that we played, you might understand why that's actually an apt nickname. Yeah. Oh man.
Wow. Come on, Jank. That's a low even for you.
Oh man. Yeah. I have another meme by Kanzik right here. This is going to the Wealth Pilled meme page. By the way, I've been making some new meme pages because I like liberal hot memes for moral universalist teens, but I'm starting to get some memers block when it comes to it. I've been at it for almost 2 years.
Memer block.
And I can't do it anymore. I went 4 days the other day without posting any original content or anything. And so I'm going to be focusing on more, and I said this before, but I'm transitioning more towards curating other people's memes at this point because I got to focus on the channel and everything else. But I am going to be I started nuke pilled memes for radioactive teens. That one's pretty potent. Everybody go follow that. We're going to be uploading some nuke pilled memes over there. And then there's also finance memes for wealth pilled teens. And Kanzik made a meme for that we're about to take a look at here, and it's absolutely it's good. It's a pretty clever one. I'm gonna see. There was another one too. Yeah, here it is right here. This is hilarious. I might have actually played this on the stream before because to touch on what Reese was saying, Reese had asked me if watching Vouch for those hours had been a waste of time. Well, no, because it did give me content to talk about because he referred to Montana as a shithole state at one point, and I was like, oh, we'll run the math on it and see how it works out compared to what he's classifying as a great state like New York and whatnot. And out of that, Kanzik made a meme, and this is it right here. This is hilarious. I love this. The countryside. I'm not a redneck. $150,000, $4,000 a month for a tiny studio. rooms in an urban center. Like that's no, it's true though. It's true. So like Kanzik has some really good memes. He's like think about it, right? Like, no, that's a shithole state. Like, look at that. Who wants to live in a house out there? There's probably Trump supporters there. Oh, but there, it's like, oh, sign me up. They probably have Funko Pops, bro. So
that's such a it's such a low IQ take, because all of the rich people who live in New York or California, they make sure to have their second home here. Like this is where rich people come to live. I don't know what to tell you, man.
Or Connecticut. They like, that's the thing. They're not doing the whole renting $4,000 thing is like their primary, residence, or their only residence, I should say. Like the rich people, they have their house out in Connecticut, and then they rent the $4,000 a month thing to you. Like that's how that game is played. But you're not a redneck, right? You just want to live in it's just okay. I can't tell you, Reese. I don't know. I don't get it. I know that there are others in the community that probably do get it. I don't really get it myself. I'll get ads and stuff for things on Facebook or other sorts of sites, or even Twitter, for realty type things and stuff. And it'll be like a picture of a neighborhood, and it'll be like a cul-de-sac. It'll be like, say, 15 houses that you can see appearing, and they're all roughly equal spaced apart. They all have big yards. There aren't really very many trees around. They're all nice houses, but they all look roughly similar. They're all about 4,000 square feet. And it looks like a really nice neighborhood. The kind of houses that in a typical U.S. state might go for about $200,000 to $250,000, where I live, probably about $1.5 to $2 million. And the thing is, what do I see in all the comments? Like, that looks like a terrible neighborhood, or like, suburbs, cringe. Or like, who wants to live in the suburbs and all this stuff. But then everybody's all
want to live in the suburbs.
These carbon copy buildings that, like, if you've ever played SimCity 4 or SimCity 3, I loved those games. But my one criticism of it, and the thing that always pissed me off, was I'd be annoyed how, like, when you start off the game, it's cool and there's all these different buildings and stuff. But then once you start playing for even about an hour, you're going to notice, or even sooner, depending on what speed you're on, new buildings and new neighborhoods crop up, and there's the exact same house as over there, and there's the exact same building as over here. And you're like, oh, right, they've got a limited number of presets for the buildings. There's not just it makes buildings random colors, random sizes, and whatnot. No, there's literally like a database of like 400 different buildings available, and depending on your zoning, you're going to get 30 different combinations, and it makes it really dry. And I wish that it would look more organic. And if anybody's going to make I've seen even like City Skylines and all these like much cooler and more advanced SimCity replacements and stuff, the newer versions, they still only have like a limited number of building models. Why not make it AI based, where it designs buildings randomly and makes them original each time, so it looks like a real city? Like, sometimes in a city you'll have copies of buildings and whatnot, but this style of architecture here, I've just got to say, like, yeah, it looks cool and stuff. That looks like the cookie cutter template from SimCity 3000 back in like 2006. I just got to say, that looks like the building that when it appears, you're like, crap, another one of those ones. Like, can we just get like some variety, bro? But the countryside or whatever, or a house in the suburbs. That they all look the same. They all look the same, bro. Man, I don't know. Maybe it's I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe it's the Funko Pops. I don't know what it is. So
that's cringe, bro. Hey,
yeah,
Val, if we're such a shithole state, Val should pay it a visit, man. We have no sales tax. It's a pretty awesome state. You probably say that's a bad thing, though.
Vaush would say that that's basically the bourgeois class throwing a bone to the workers to keep them from burning down the system, man. Burning down the system, man.
Yeah, because there's such discontent. We have so many race riots just rocking the landscape.
You know what's funny to me is, like, these are the same type of people who will claim things like religion is the opiate of the masses, that kind of stuff. But then they'll unironically like obsess over like cuties and that kind of stuff, or like, you know, Vosh talked about cuties. He said that he actually was critical of it, but he said that the original version he could get behind. A lot of it is just like the Hassan Piker stuff too, where it's like Hassan Piker, he'll constantly talk about like the bourgeoisie and all this kind of stuff as he's playing like bourgeois video games. Like, I'm sure Grand Theft Auto would have been classified as a no-no in the Soviet Union, you know? Like, pretty sure Stalin would have thought that that was Western decadence, you know? But
anything to get his super chats, man.
those super chats, man. Yeah, no, I mean, it's just, yeah, but it's this one right here. No, I don't get it, man. I don't really see that whole sort of appeal or whatever to like, oh, you know, like that's original, man. But like the suburbs are ugly, man. Like I don't get it. There's an anti-suburb sentiment around right now. It's it's not just like the far left or anything. I see anti-suburb stuff from like, I guess it's like the Georgist Twitter. Like I don't really even understand Georgism that much. I guess they don't like suburbs. I'm not sure. Like Globe Twitter. I don't know. I'm kind of a fan of suburbs myself, you know, but like
they're completely
like I'm also a fan of.
I know what you're talking about, because I think Liz and like, oh, what's that guy's name? He's
Medlock.
Yeah, that. Oh, you know exactly what I was talking about. That's pretty.
Yeah,
that's pretty
we're all
sad.
like uphold Medlock thought, and you know, that's the portraits of Medlock and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, that.
Yeah, they're always hating on suburbs, and it's like what kind of like shacks do these people live in? Like, and they're like, I can't imagine that people are satisfied with their hole in the wall apartments, because
there's a reason
obviously that house.
There's a reason why the suburbs exist, because they want to get away from the dense urban cluster of people like Liz and Medlock. So I would too, you know. Like,
you know, as much as I want everyone to be packed together like sardines, I think that we could maybe space out a little bit more.
Like, I used to want to be an architect when I was like really young and whatnot and everything. And I always thought, you know, skyscrapers would like really cool, you know, especially like original design skyscrapers, that kind of stuff. Those are cool. And, you know, different houses and all this kind of stuff. But like this kind of like cookie cutter condo block sort of thing never really appealed to me too much. Vancouver does it in a way that like the Vancouver skyline looks good on the outside, but then a lot of the buildings in Vancouver beyond it and whatnot aren't really that creative. I'm not saying that urban density is bad or anything. I don't get the obsession with urban density, because personally I'm sick of crowds. I'm sick of it. I want to move to a smaller city down the road. I don't know, man. I guess I am a boomer. I guess I just don't want the kids on my lawn, you know? So
I mean, if that's all it takes to make you a boomer, like, oh, I want some space to myself and I want to stretch my wings and I want to live in a nice place, like, yeah, everybody should want that.
I saw, yeah.
People look at the suburbs and they're like, man, this looks terrible. Like, what looks terrible? The green lawns, the white fence, that looks terrible to you?
The houses?
That's like that's a dream house. Look at that.
No, it's literally like, a dream house. Like, you know what's a first world problem? Hating on the suburbs. Like, think about it.
Oh, absolutely. It is. It really is. Because that's what most people should, you know, in any other context, most people would be aspiring for that. They'd be like, yes, like they couldn't wait.
No, it's literally like the American dream, man. Like, that's what it is. But every time somebody, one of my mutuals or something, likes something or retweets something from like Globe Twitter, 30% of the time I feel like it's just anti-suburb sentiment. And like, I'm not sure. Like the alt-right would say that, oh, that's because they hate white people and they associate the suburbs with whites. I don't think that's it. Obviously, there's a ton of people of all skin colors that live in the suburbs. It's not like a race thing. I don't think that's it. I think it's just, this idea that like they want to plan cities, and the way that they want to plan cities is to have everybody like clustered in a dense urban core, I guess, so that we don't drive places because like I guess pollution's bad, that kind of thing. I don't know, man. Which is funny because the carbon footprint on a lot of these places is obviously really high as well. So I don't know. Like, can somebody explain anti-suburbism to me? It seems like another thing is, it seems like such a weird particular thing to be obsessed over. Like, there were people like that when I studied economics too, that would be kind of like their big focus was on that kind of stuff. And they're like, for me, I was never really interested in like, suburbophobia, I guess it is. I was never really too interested in that. Like, like I said, I can appreciate skyscrapers and I can appreciate the suburbs. Like, they all have their element to offer. And the thing is, I'm not even hating on somebody who wants to live like in one of those like areas that's like near to the business core, but not like uber high density building like that. Whatever, like you do you, but they have to go and crap on the suburbs all the time. It's like, what happens if you just want to like live 7.8 kilometers out from the city core and not have to deal with the high density of everything, but also have like access to the job market of the city? What about that? I don't know. Oh, I guess that makes you a shitlord, maybe, or a boomer. So I don't know.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, it's just weird.
I don't have a dream home, but I definitely live away from the city center where I live, and I would hate to be in the center of everything because it's absolute insanity. And I don't mind driving around a little bit if need be. And if they really like, that's so weird to think that people would have like an environmental angle on it, but then they'd say that Montana is shit. Man, you should see you should see it, man. It's like the Garden of Eden compared to a lot of places. Really,
it looks huge.
But
huge.
They're gonna be like, man, we care. These people are just they're so full of shit. Anytime they're like, man, I really care about the environment. It's like, but then they see a house that's like among the trees. Ew, redneck. That's gross. I want to be in the city. That's more cultured. Well, then you don't care about the environment.
No, you're right. That's what it is. It's the culture. They look at which, by the way, I guess country music and that kind of stuff, not culture. But that, oh yeah, that's culture right there. They probably have like posters and stuff on the walls and stuff, inside the carbon copy buildings. No, I guess that's what it is. Anything that's seen as country or rural can't be cultured. By definition, it's like that high culture versus low culture thing, which is funny because like, aren't these people supposed to be like a proletarian revolution or something? Like, that was the same thing with the Soviets too. Is like the Bolsheviks thought of themselves as high cultured over like the low peasants and stuff. And it wasn't really until Maoism where that kind of went away, and then they were like, they saw the intellectual class, I guess, as like degenerates or whatever, and then it turned in the other direction. And then, of course, that spawned Pol Pot, and they took it to the logical conclusion there. But it's like, man, that's like, I like the comment from Winter. Winter said that Marxism is the opiate of the masses. Yeah. I mean, at this point, it's a distraction. You get to be like, oh, like, let's be radicals, bro. That'll be exciting and stuff. And we can trigger the capitalists and stuff like that. But we got a comment here. Kamaljit says Montana looks beautiful. Yeah, no, for sure. Montana looks beautiful. Montana also looks spooky. They got nukes in Montana, so they got tubes in Montana. So over at Malmstrom base, and they got nukes in Wyoming too. They got nukes in
Wyoming.
In Wyoming, yeah, that's right.
Man.
That's right. It's like they literally, like, in Cheyenne Mountain and stuff, when they're monitoring stuff at NORAD, they're like, let's just test one of them from the Wyoming complex, like, with the apostrophe. Like, fun fact, out of all the 50 states, only one state has an apostrophe in its name. That's Wyoming. So, in the register, like in the census. Yeah, in the census, it's like you get a call from the government because you filled out your census data, and they're like, yeah, unfortunately, Mr. Castley, we can't actually process your census information. You're like, why the hell not? I said it. I filled out everything. And it's like, well, we can't recognize your state. And it's like, what? Why? It's like, I wrote Wyoming. And it's like, yeah, unfortunately, that's not in our system, man. Did you mean Wyoming? And then it's like, and it's like, yeah, and then you send it off again. You send it off again, and they can't recognize it in the system because they're like, Wyoming, what the hell is that? It's like, did you mean Wyoming? And it's like, yeah. It's like, what's the difference? It's like, oh, well, in our registry, it has an apostrophe after the end. So it's like, so you have to send it
No,
back.
that is an ignorant question. If we must explain the difference, it's as if we have not fought a war over that apostrophe.
Yeah, it's right. Like, I mean, it's like because you'd have the second Wyoming War of Secession, and
there were the Wyoming originalists, and there were the Wyoming revolutionaries, and it was a very dark time filled with strife, brother against brother.
Yeah.
You know how it goes.
They fought a civil war against the Union so that they could be the only state to officially have an apostrophe in their name. They won, but then they had a civil war within Wyoming over those who resisted and wanted to keep it with a G. Yeah, no, it's pretty good.
We call them the G strings. Very nasty, very nasty people.
Oh man, yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah, no, there's just a lot of suburbophobia. I don't get it. Like, I guess, like, if you ask me, are you more likely to have suburbophobia or like urban phobia or whatever? I don't really like crowds that much anymore, so probably the latter. So,
well, you know what, Mr. Castley, that makes you very racist. He said he's against urban areas.
Yeah, I guess there you go.
He's
It's
against
like
Urbania.
Urbania. That's right, Urbania. Oh man, suburbia, and then and of course,
these comments. I love WAP is one of the worst songs I heard. Cardi B is a product of urban culture.
well, you know what I said You know what I said on air last night? Because somebody asked me about Cardi B. I forget who it was. But I said, here's the thing that's hard to believe with her. The only thing worse than her music, and again, I say that as somebody who's got, I think, 3,987 artists logged that I've listened to, and I keep track of like all this shit. So like I know music and shit, at least within what I'm into and whatnot. I've listened to some Cardi B. No. So that's where this is coming from. So I could speak for. Oh, it was Kamal Jeet who has this. Okay. There is something that's worse than her music, and it's her politics. Because I also saw her on Young Turks, and holy crap, did she crap the bed? Just wow, dude. Oh man, yeah. If you want to see somebody simp for Bernie harder than Kyle Kulinski, literally check out Cardi B. Because at least with Kyle, he'll sometimes criticize Bernie's tone as being like, oh, his tone isn't, it's not tough enough or whatever. And actually, he has some good points, honestly. Like, he's right that Bernie kind of like will back down. Even though Bernie's ideology is toxic and everything, Bernie, not exactly the bro for the revolution. So I can see why Kyle would be upset.
No. He's a pushover for sure.
He's a pushover. That's what Kyle calls him sometimes. And like on that, Kyle actually has a more accurate reading of Bernie than Cardi B, who simps enamoredly over the Birdman. And that's another thing. Like, so like the Hawks, we have all these memes, we got all these references and everything. What do the Bernie bros have? They have Chapo, and they have T-shirts with a bird on them because of like some speech where a bird randomly landed. And it's like, you know what? Like if I'm ever running for like political office or something, like, I hope that the hawk gods will like recognize all that I've done and send a hawk down to land on stage. Wouldn't that be base? Like, not just a bird, like literally like a hawk. Like literally this guy lands on the stage And moreover, he has the glitch effect going on. Like, and he's got the acid filter as well in real life. Wouldn't that be kind of cool? You know, he's just like a higher evolved hog, you know? And he's seen speeches. He can't speak English, but he's seen them. He understands it. He knows what's going on. Oh man, imagine a Kyle Burney administration.
Oh man, no,
man. Yeah,
wow. Really, I'm fortunate not to know Cardi B's politics, but I'll say the only thing worse than her music is just her as a person, because she's admitted on camera to having drugged and robbed men in the past.
That's true. Yeah,
she's a terrible person.
But
she very fittingly makes terrible music.
Slay Queen.
Slay.
Oh man, dude. Oh man. Like what? I don't know, man. Yeah, there's a lot of good music out there. Not her. Fantano. By the way, Fantano, he literally has yeah, I know, right? Because people have said, they're like, oh, like you're really into music, and like you track all the music you listen to and all this stuff. Like, do you watch the Needle Drop? And I'm like, you're talking about Fantano. They're like, oh yeah. It's like, yeah, I've seen him. I disagree with his takes on just about every album. Like, period. He and I have almost 180-degree opposing taste in music. But it turns out, that translated over to politics too. Dude's literally a war bad brainlet June type. And I'm like an ascended neocon nuke pill hawk that's got cool pooter memes and stuff going on. So we're like on opposite ends of the aisle on basically everything. So he's a different breed, man. He's a different breed. And in many ways he reminds me of like a Vosh type, except he doesn't get as political. But wow. And he's friends with Kyle.
Oh yeah, he's friends with all these people. He's friends with the Amazing Atheists. All of them. They all run in a tight circle.
Oh man. Well, even TJ at least at one point said, "Hey man, maybe somebody should actually do something about North Korea." I saw the video. I was like, "Oh wow, he might actually get canceled over this," because he was like, "What?" Because he said
when did that video get made though? That can't be a recent thing.
That was a couple years ago, because he's like, look, diplomacy's been tried and everything. They're getting nukes. Maybe we should just nuke them. That's basically what he said. And
holy shit.
I know, right? I'll see if I can find the clip. Amazing Atheist, North Korea. It was kind of refreshing. Now, he was just kind of spitballing, and like you could argue he wasn't really that serious about it. But there was a glimmer there where you're like, oh, he's actually kind of taken the nuke pill organically. But, of course, warmonger, neocon, all that kind of stuff. But, yeah. Yeah, he did a video attacking North Korea, good or bad idea. It's like 21 minutes. We're not going to watch that. But
oh, yeah. We don't need to watch any of it, honestly. I would rather not.
I used to watch TJ. I remember when he did like the blueberry pie video, stupid stuff like that, like just 40-second meme videos. I was a fan of him in like grade 10, grade 8, grade 9. I thought he was cool. I thought he was funny.
Oh yeah, I was a fan too. It's been a long time though, for sure.
Yeah,
but definitely fell out of favor.
Yeah,
and it wasn't just on this issue. It was on a number of issues. I was just like, okay, yeah, no, I'm done. I don't really value your input too much anymore. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was a very different person then, so it's hard to relate. I like in the chat. I like the idea that W.R. Winter hasn't heard Cardi B's voice. I would love to see his reaction to WAP. That would be so funny to see like a fresh, like, okay, this is your first exposure to Cardi B.
Untainted in triple parentheses, ears.
Oh, absolutely. Your ears are pure if you have not heard Cardi B, which is funny because like so many. I remember when that song came out, like there was so much like pearl clutching over, I guess, it being inappropriate. That's not the problem with that song. It's just a terrible song. But I don't care about, you could have an amazing song with the same subject. You would need different artists to be behind such a project.
I like this. I went to go and type ears in triple parentheses as like the meme. That's one of the inside jokes. It says here, YouTube rejected your comment. This usually means they think it's spam. Try changing it a bit. Okay, so I guess YouTube is kind of sick of like Nick Fuentes types, I guess. So they don't like the triple parentheses. But obviously I do it ironically. Twitch accepted it, on the other hand, so that's interesting. So you can dog whistle against Jews over on Twitch.
Well, all that tells me is that Twitch really believes in free speech, man. That's the next free speech platform.
They're honestly, I've kind of opened my eyes a little bit. Their executives are more to the left than YouTube. Believe it or not.
Yeah, that's kind of a joke because they are much quicker to suspend people than YouTube.
Yeah. They did suspend Vosh, though. Vosh, I guess you could say he took a nuke pill in the same way that Bappin took a nuke pill. He wants a nuke pill, so it's like not all nuke pills are created equally. So
yeah, no, he took like the suppository nuke pill. It's kind of a fail.
He kind of looks like the Amazing Atheist in in this image, but like it's Vosh.
Yeah, there are many fat neckbeards in the progressive left, so that's really not all that surprising.
It's a running theme, no doubt. You hate to see it, but oh man.
Yeah, it's almost like failed human beings also have failure politics. It's very fitting in a way. It's like poetry. Everything rhymes, man. Every stanza rhymes.
Hey man, almost all my one-liners rhyme, man.
That's true.
It's true. It's true.
See?
Yeah.
I mean, that's poetry. You could write a poetry book filled with all of your nicknames.
Yeah, it'd just be like how to dunk on the Brainlet Brigades and the aggressive gremlins in 3 easy steps. 1, make sure they rhyme. 2, make sure they're catchy. 3, make sure that what was the third one? Oh, that's like the Rick Perry moment right there. It's like, oh, when I'm a leader, I'm gonna abolish 3 agencies of government.
Oh my god! I didn't even think we were gonna I'd forgotten Rick Perry even existed.
Wait, you forgot Mr. Perry? I think about Perry all the time. I was about to tweet about him right now and talk about how he was going to be making $1 million, making poor grade articles about like mobs and stuff. Man, I think about him all the time. I'm like Chris Hayes.
I had to think about that for a second.
If I go on Chris Hayes, if I go on Chris Hayes, and Chris Hayes is like, okay, tonight joining us in studio, we have for you all a special guest. We have a warmonger tonight, and I come on there and I'm like, hello everybody, how's it going? And he's like, he just asked me, he's like, so why war good? And I'll just be like, and I'll just ask him, and I'll say, let me ask you, Mr. Hayes, how many times per day on average does the thought of the late Christopher Hitchens pass your mind? He'll be like, between 8 and 12. And I'll be like, okay, I guess that makes sense. Fair enough. And then we'll go our separate ways. That'll be the extent of the interview, bro.
Rick Perry was governor of Texas, wasn't he?
That's correct. And he ran for president, and he had 3 agencies. 3, not 2, not 4. He had 3 agencies of government that are gone when he wins, and he definitely knows what those 3 agencies of government are. And they ask him, he's like, "Oh man, when when I'm yeah. So we're actually gonna get the flip. It's so it's so good.
We got to at this point.
I'm trying to like explain it, but also draw it out as I'm downloading it. But then I realized like, oh, there's no way I'm gonna get this in time for me to finish this sentence. So I'm just gonna have to tell you guys.
Yeah, man, you need a better setup. You need to learn OBS, man.
I'm trying to figure out at the moment how to get the kids off my lawn. It's going to take me a while to figure out OBS, bro.
Well, while you're working on that, we have a comment from WR Winter. He says, "Did you hear Trudeau fail on free expression yesterday? In wake of Paris attacks, he says, quote, there are limits to free expression." Well, Trudeau is infamously useless on most issues. So yeah, that's not surprising at all. Who would have thought Macron would be the hero the West needed?
Yes. No, I was literally just a few days ago talking about how like everybody showing for Macron over Trump on Iran specifically is weak, and that this is the one issue where Trump is right, but Macron. Oh man, no, Macron is actually taking the lead in the fight against political Islam. So that's good. I like it. And you know what? I like a lot of the memes that I've seen of like embrace Macron and stuff. And it's like it's obviously coded as a rejection of what we're dealing with right now, which is terrorism. But before we get into a dark subject, I do have a video from the former governor of Texas here. So he has three agencies of government that are gone when he's president. Three, not two, not four. Oh, I hit the 100 limit. I'm gonna have to delete one of these random ones. Yeah, delete this, delete that. So like, yeah, StreamYard could be a lot better. I'm gonna have to figure out OBS. I know I've seen Reese's OBS set up in the past, and it looked pretty swaggy. I actually like, especially when I started like doing the daily streams, and I got premium. Once like Wyatt became a patron and stuff and supported premium, to me, I'm like, I look at this, I'm like, it looks so cool, but like it could look a lot better. So I need to up the game.
Yeah, the problem, this StreamYard is superior in the way that you can actually share a video though with someone on the call with you. In OBS, I don't know how to do that. Like I would need like a soundboard. I would need to buy a lot of extra equipment. So honestly, what you're using now is probably the best you're going to get for now.
For now. Yeah. Because I'm not going anywhere. Like right now, put the rest of the patron money for the moment going forward to offsetting the initial cost of the computer and stuff. The patrons and the PayPal gang so far has paid for about half of it. So it'll be a little while before I invest in any new equipment, but it'll happen down the road. But we've got the former governor of Texas here tonight, so let's take a look at what he has to say. So here we go.
But the fact of the matter is we better have a plan in place that Americans can get their hands around, and that's the reason my flat tax is the only one of all the folks, these good folks on the stage. It balances the budget in 2020. It does the things to the regulatory climate that has to happen.
Man, that is classic.
Classic. Okay.
Classic.
I have a few thoughts.
I like that oops at the end. Oops.
Okay, oops has to be one of the most legendary words ever. Like, because think about it. I mean, when you hear oops, like, I mean, there are certain contexts in that which that is the worst word in the universe. Like, I mean, you're at a political debate. That tanked his chances of being president right there. The oops line, because more than him just forgetting it. And by the way, I got some thoughts on this. My first thought is I'm watching this and I'm like, I don't like Ron Dumber than Jake Paul. I don't like him. He's a 9/11 truther. He's a fifth column, all that kind of stuff, and a sadist, an apologist for the Kims, etc. But in Ron Dumber than Jake Paul's favor, I guess, he's running against Rick Perry, and there he is on the stage as Rick Perry's stumbling, and he jumps in to help a brother out, and he's like, "No, you gotta get 5. He to help a brother out. He didn't have to do that. He could have stepped by and just said, "Oh, look at this guy. That's funny." No, he's like, "No, he's 5," and he's like, he wants to tell him what the 5 are. He wants to tell him his policy. He's just trying to help a brother out, and then Perry. Oh, this was the dumbest part of it. And I remember when this happened, I was thinking to myself, and I was a lot younger back then, but I was thinking to myself, I'm like, you know what was dumber than Perry forgetting the third one? Because, yeah, it happens. He literally gets offered by Ron Paul the idea of the third one being the EPA. And then in his infinite stupidity, Mr. Perry decides, nah, that ain't it, bro. Wait, what are you doing? You don't know what the third one is. Just take it. Just take it. If he took the EPA,
he should have just took it.
If he took the EPA, I don't care that he meant some other agency that he couldn't think of. If he took the EPA there, he could have been like, "Oh, thank you for reminding me, Mr. Paul," or whatever. And then they could have moved on. And then, but instead he's like, "Oh, no, that ain't it. It was something else." And the moderator the whole time was like, "Wait, seriously? Wait, what do you mean? Like, what was it the EPA?" And Perry gets another shot, and he's like, "No, sir. That is like an episode of like one of the like some of the kids shows, like like Arthur or something from like way back in the day, where it's like, you done goofed in class and stuff. Like that's like it just reminds me of like Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends or something. Like just like the fantastical stupidity of it. And you're like, wait, no, it wasn't that one. You're like, what are you doing? What are you doing? There's no way this is real life. That's the governor of Texas. Dude, just take it. Just take it. Just say it was the EPA. He's like, no, the EPA needs to be rebuilt, bro. Okay, but then what's the third? He's like, nah, I don't have it, man. Oops. And then oops. He added oops at the end. He added oops on the end. He didn't even have to do the oops line because that makes a good soundbite against you to just be like, yeah, oops. It's just
daisy.
It's just cherry on top. Yeah, oopsie daisy. Like, yeah. Like imagine that you're prepping for the debate and the ghost of debate's future appears to you and tells you, it gives you an image of what's going to happen at the debate tonight and reveals to you, at some point in this debate, Mr. Perry, you will utter the word. You will utter the words, oops. And you're like, oh, okay. I should just suspend my campaign right now. Like, you're done, son. It's like, oops.
You're done, son.
No, imagine if like Trump said oops or Biden said oops at any point. It would have been the biggest soundbite of the night. It's just it literally it's you're done, son. Like there's no recovery. What do you do? So of course he dropped out and everything following that, but yeah.
I like the idea too, just the premise of it. Like, oh yeah, these departments, we don't need them. Like, how could anyone even believe that? Yeah, we don't need a Department of Education. What? How can that possibly be any? Like, yeah, let's just get rid of that one.
No. I think Perry meant like privatized education. The problem is, even if you did that, like because like I could see the argument for saying, well, if you had it all operate as private or charter schools or whatever, you'd still have to have a curriculum enforcement agency that makes sure that all the schools are holding up to a certain standard. Even if you privatize the whole thing, you'd still have to have a regulatory body. So even then, just like getting rid of the Department of Education wouldn't make sense. But I'm pretty sure that's what Perry meant. But I don't know. And then what was the other one? I guess he meant the Department of Energy was the second one. Okay.
He said it was commerce, education, and then a third one he can't remember.
A third, yeah, they offered him energy and he rejected that one too. That's right. So
he was like, yeah, the EPA, and then they ask him. I think one of my favorite parts is like, no, seriously, is it the EPA? And he's like, no, it's not the EPA, but the EPA, it needs to be rebuilt. So I like the distinction he makes. Like, yes, this one needs to be rebuilt, but commerce and education need to be destroyed. But the EPA needs to only be rebuilt. What is the logic? Like that? Yeah, clearly that's the guy we want to put in charge.
Well, the thing is, on foreign policy, though, he is kind of pilled. Like Nick 7 points out here, Rick Perry, though, said in 2012. No, I know. I like on a lot of his foreign policy, it's pretty good. It's just this was just a good meme. But Rick Perry, though, said in 2012 he would send the troops back to Iraq. I laughed at the time when he said that. Little did I realize he was right and I was wrong. The troops leaving Iraq was a mistake. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they never should have left. I mean, and there was a really infuriating interview, and I sent the link to Reese earlier the other day from Mehdi Hassan interviewing John Bolton. And he totally strawmans the Iraq war and all this kind of stuff and implies that John Bolton supported everything that followed from it. And John Bolton's like, hey, look, a lot of that mess was because of Obama, but you're going to pin that on me? And then, oh, man, it was an amazing... Did you get a chance to see the interview, Reese? Because I only saw it a couple days ago, and I probably should have saw it 2 weeks ago.
I haven't seen any of it. I know that it happened, but yeah, no, I haven't seen it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, Perry's better than Ron Paul, by the way. Just so
obviously.
Like, this one was just for the memes. Out of that stage, if you ask me, you get to pick Ron Paul or Rick Perry. It's not even close. It's Rick Perry. Like, that was the Republican primary. You're going to pick Ron Paul or Rick Perry. It's not even close. But funny moment. Also, turns out Rick Perry, pretty honest guy. He had every opportunity to lie, and he's like, no, that would not be the truth. So, hey, man, maybe they should have picked him. Who knows? But obviously, Mitt Romney went on to win that.
Yeah. So, yeah. To clarify, that was 2012 because there was a comment earlier saying something about 2016. So no, that was 2012 was a very different time for the country and for the Republican Party, for sure.
Yeah. Ron Paul could be best friends with, and then he does the triple K too. Communized Kremlin Kukshitsky. That's a good one. That's Cool Pooter right there. Of Cools Incorporated. That's like, again, yeah. I feel like the wiki should probably even be expanded. Like, there's a lot going on there. So, it's just to get the people caught up on everything. But that Perry thing, that's amazing. I mean, that was one of the worst mess ups in a debate in a long time, for sure. But yeah, man, I don't really have too much else. I should probably go to bed pretty soon, but we managed to go about 3 hours, as we usually do.
We can stop while we're ahead.
We can stop while we're ahead. That's right, and not go like Rick Perry, where he's like, nah, that ain't it. It was something else. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, that was 2012 for sure. There were a lot of it was a very strange time, even more so than the 2016, because at that point the Republicans were really desperate because they were obviously used to being in charge with Bush, but then they had just lost the previous election, so they were kind of in this state of, you could almost see Romney as this transition from someone like McCain to someone like Trump in a way, where they were like, okay, we'll try somebody a little bit different. And 2012 standards for different was, he's going to be really religious, but he's going to be a Mormon. Like, that was kind of their approach to it. And it
It was kind of funny. The thing is, I remember it really well, for sure, but I wasn't politically thoughtful or mindful, rather, at the time, so I really didn't think much of it. I remember it happening. So that's kind of a weird thing to think back on. It, these elections that you've been through. I remember as far back as Kerry and W. Bush, but I didn't care. Like, I was a kid, so
Yeah, same here.
it's weird to think, like it's kind of the nature of growing up. This thing surrounds you all your life, and at first you don't care about it, and now it's like the thing I care about the most. Look at how this thing has totally consumed me.
That's right. Like for me, the first election. Yeah. No, the first election that I remember was the 2001. But I remember at the time in 2000 with Al Gore versus Bush, I just remembered it as basically watching it that night. I was like, 6 or 7? I just remember it as like red versus blue. And I liked blue more at the time. So I guess I was rooting for Al Gore. So
man, this is a color war, man.
It's a color revolution, bro. It's like what Kyle would say. This is another color revolution by the deep state to undermine Russian interests, man. Like the color revolutions.
That reminds me of in the primary for this election, people were like, they were sharing like pictures from the debates for the Democrats, and they were like showing, because basically like they were standing in front of like some American flag pattern screen, and they chose these angles where it looked like Bernie, Yang, and Tulsi were standing in front of like the red parts of the flag, but everyone else was standing in front of the blue parts of the flag. And so all of these socialists were like, they're trying to make them look like Republicans, man. They did it on purpose, man. I'm like, this is so, like, you might as well be looking for like Illuminati symbols at this point. Like, what is this? That's right. Really, that's what people believe. They did this to make them look like Republicans. Like, right. They can't help where people stand, because people stand in the order of, how they're standing in the polls. So whatever. It's too stupid for words, honestly.
Yeah. Wow.
Yikes, yikes, yikes.
That's right. That's right. Amazing.
Amazing,
man. Just like Jesse Lee Peterson's timeline on Twitter the other day.
Oh God. Yeah, maybe you should let your intern have a break there, Jesse.
Yeah. The quote unquote intern.
That's us being kind.
It's it's just benefit of the doubt, one of my favorite quotes, funniest quotes from Jesse Lee Peterson, of course, was in the Pac-Man interview. And Pac-Man's explaining something to him for like the second or third time. And Jesse says, listen. And I think it was like defining what an atheist is or something. And because Jesse Lee Peterson is like, are you an atheist? And
that sounded exactly like him.
And David Pac-Man was like, "Oh, you're asking if I believe in God?" And he's like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, so you worship Satan, basically, and all this?" And then Pac-Man has like, I'm probably misremembering it. That was probably a different point in the interview, but at some point in the interview, anyway. Jesse interrupts David again and says, "Listen, David, quote, I'm black and slow, so give me a simple yes or no." And that is just so so typically Jesse Lee Peterson, it just that tells you everything you need to know about him right there. That lie. I'm black and slow, so give me a simple yes or no. That like you know what he's about at that point. Like, it all makes sense.
Are you an atheist?
No, he didn't like use the article and he used the article which made it even funnier.
Oh
Like,
my god!
It reminded me of like, are you a simp? It's like, no, I'm hot. And it's like, are you an atheist?
Are you an atheist?
Oh no, it was, are you atheist?
Oh no!
Like
Jesse is
like,
so stupid. He must have thought it was a pro father post because it has daddy in it.
Like, this is the question. This is the question he posed to Pac-Man. I'll literally spell it out right now in the chat. This is what he asked Pac-Man right here, and Pac-Man was trying to like understand the question basically. But yeah, are you atheist?
Are you a atheist?
That's basically or are you a beta? That's the other
Are
thing.
you a beta male?
Yeah, like because that's something that he'll do all the time, and so he'll be like, "Oh, so you're a beta."
Because when I think of alpha males, I think of Jesse Lee Peterson first and foremost.
Amazing. Also, my favorite part or my second favorite part about that interview, because I already explained my favorite part, but my second favorite part of it is right at the beginning of the interview, just as they're getting the equipment set up and everything, and they're not 100% sure if they're live yet or whatever, and Jesse's just like, amazing. Like that's the first word in the video, and it's like 2.5 hours long. And he's like, oh, are we live? And then he's like, amazing. Welcome to the Jesse Lee Peterson show. Like that's how that's how he starts every stream, everything. Like imagine it, like, because for me, I always have like the classic, like, hello and welcome to Superpower Broadcasting. I'm Kevin Castley. Thanks for being here tonight. Like that's a classic. And like, pro tip, back in the early days, sometimes there wouldn't even be anybody here ready. And I still say that, but with Jesse, his opening is always amazing. So tonight we're joined with Ben Shapiro. No, there's so many laugh emojis in the chat right now. Almost okay. My chat at this moment almost looks like Vosh, except with laugh emojis instead of Pepe's. Like that's the meme with him, is that everything's just a freaking emoji. But like I like emojis, but yeah. It's
I like emojis as much as the next guy.
Like David, let me. Like this is basically how he positioned the question. I'm not sure if he actually asked this, but I imagine he probably must have at some point. It's been a while since that interview. But that's basically the question that he posed to David. Like, David, let me ask you: are you a beta?
Are you a beta?
A beta.
Man, he's a national treasure. I can't even be mad at him ever. He's so funny.
But like at some point we'll go on his show and he'll be like, so you a hawk? I'll be like, yeah. He'll be like, amazing.
Yes. Yes.
Oh man, can you imagine? Okay, because Bolton went on Mehdi Hassan's show, which is amazing in and of itself. Imagine John Bolton went on Jesse Lee Peterson's show, and they just had a 2-hour interview about like foreign policy or whatever. The thing that was funny with like the Mehdi Hassan interviews, like the whole time Bolton's like, you have your 15 minutes. We agreed to 15 minutes, and like obviously Mehdi kept on wanting to ask him like, well, what about the Vietnam War? What's the Vietnam War? And Bolton's like, no, you have 15 minutes. And what I liked about it was how like, if it was Jank, even if it was Kyle or anybody, they'd be desperate for more time. Whereas with Bolton, what I love about Bolton is how like Bolton's like, dude, I have things to do. like you get your 15 minutes. I love that, dude. He's a busy hawk. He's like, I mean, because a lot of people are like, oh, Mehdi Hassan, like he's a big deal. Whereas to Bolton, he's like, you get exactly 15 minutes of my time. You're not any bigger of a deal than that. Dude, he's cold and bold, man. Like this guy is a legend. That's him right there. So like, and he looks so. He looks so pissed too because he's like, so he is going to turn out to be a brainlet. Okay, you're done, son. You got your 15 minutes. I'm out of here. And he left. And it was a very rude interview too because Mehdi went very low and he brought up a quote from John Bolton when John Bolton was in high school. And then John Bolton was like, wait. I'm not going to let you just get that through the audience or whatever. You're only reading off part of a sentence of it. I have the full thing with me. Do you? And then Mehdi's like scrambling through his notes. And Bolton's like, because I have the full thing like right here. And he actually gets like his yearbook with him. And he goes through the whole line of his quote about like the Vietnam War and why he didn't go and all this sort of stuff. Mehdi got absolutely wrecked. And then you look at the comments afterwards on YouTube. I didn't find a single one that was pro Bolton. Every single one of the comments, even though there were 80 dislikes to about 1,000 likes, so you would think 1/10 of the comments would be negative, all the comments were positive. I couldn't find a single pro Bolton comment. So
maybe they got censored. But Bolton's not very popular on YouTube, so I wouldn't be all that surprised if they were difficult to find, regardless.
Yeah.
No, that is low. I mean, digging through high school quotes, like, is that the level we're at?
It's basically like Mean Girls at that point, Like, just the guy.
This
like,
is journalism, man.
I don't know if like the audience understands or people out there get it, but like John Bolton graduated high school a little while ago now, so
yeah, he's gonna be on to bigger and better things very soon.
Yeah, I mean, that interview. Oh, and I'm just looking like, David Pakman titled it with John Bolton wasn't ready to be confronted, and of course Pakman's on Hassan's side.
Pakman's such a useless cunt.
There's so many people out there that will say, look, he's the one good progressive. I'm done. I even used to kind of say that. I used to watch his show a lot. Like I said, like I watched this interview with Jesse Lee Peterson, for example. I used to watch Pakman. No, Pakman's full of shit. People think that just because he's kind of reasonable on Israel-ish, that he's what? Like that he's the voice of reason or something? No, he's not. No, he's not. He's a joke. Look at what he said about the Iraq War. I mean, he's basically Kyle, just a more polite version in many ways. They have a very similar set of policies. So
yeah, they're very, very similar for sure. I think I have excused a lot of what he said in the past just because, like, he wasn't as overtly terrible, but he is useless. Like, he doesn't contribute anything, and really,
he should just go on, be like a full on Jimmy Dore if he wanted to have, more engagement, more people on his side.
That's true.
Because his crowd, they don't like wishy-washy types. They want full-on radicals. They don't like the polite approach.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking at a couple of these headlines right now, just scrolling down YouTube at the moment. And look at how YouTube responded to the debate. I'm just trying to see if anybody's got a pro Bolton. Like, I'll have to make a pro Bolton take on it. It might take a little while to get up, but like, take a look at this. This is ridiculous. So we've got Sniveling Sam Cedar. Everybody loves Sniveling Sam. And so we got one random person here. Mehdi Hassan owns John Bolton on the Iraq War. Spoiler alert. No, he didn't. Mehdi Hassan destroys buttering Trump defender over Trump's. Oh, that's different. I guess that just came out. And then Mehdi Hassan argues that Iran is not our enemy. Debate. Okay, so yeah, this Hassan guy, Mehdi Hassan, he thinks that Iran is cool. Like, oh, it's not a problem that they get nukes. Dude, they have a right to get nukes. America has nukes. Pathetic.
He works for Al Jazeera. I don't know why you're surprised. I mean, he's a long-time Islamic apologist.
That comment by Kadava, Reese, check that out. Pac-Man is such a pigeon. He probably gets fed with crumbs by old people in the park. That is brilliant. That's brilliant. That's what pigeons do. That's what happens to pigeons. Yeah. That's a 10 out of 10 right there. That comment. That's rare.
It's also another meme that needs to be made.
That's right. The pigeons. That's right.
Feeding at the crumbs.
Yeah, no, I'm so sick of people calling, oh, are you a hawk or are you a dove? It's like, bump that. Dove has positive connotations. It implies that, like, oh, you care and stuff and you're gentle and everything. Bump that. There are hardly any people out there that are actual, like, genuine neutral pacifists or whatever. By and large, they all do apologetics for these regimes and everything, you know? And I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And he looks like a pigeon. That's true. He does. He absolutely looks like a pigeon. Like, John Bolton looks like a hawk hybrid with a walrus, right? Like, David Pac-Man? Not so much. You know? Not so much. Somebody said that, that I was, like, mask off because I called John Bolton cold and bold. They're like, even Kevin admits he's cold. It's like, yeah, I've said many times before, I'm not saying he's cold to his family. He loves his family. He loves his country. He's cold to the enemies of freedom. And if you screw with him, don't be surprised if he screws with you. So that's the deal with him. He's based. And he doesn't have more than 15 minutes for brainlets like Mehdi Hassan. I like that.
You get 15 minutes, not a minute more.
I really like that style, actually. You know what? Maybe that's a good debate style. Just be like, okay, we'll debate, but we're only going to go for, say, 45 minutes or whatever. And if they go over the time, or I guess it more lends itself to an interview than a debate, I guess. But yeah, I remember somebody was saying, like, in the comments, oh, yeah, it was clear here John Bolton didn't do his research on Mehdi, but Mehdi did his research on Bolton. This is a real journalist, and it had like 800 upvotes, and you're like, wait, he didn't even get the proper quotation right. He just cut it off. He got that from Wikipedia. That's embarrassing.
That's real. No, Kevin. That's real journalism. Come on.
That's real journalism. No, it's true. That's true. Well, you know what? I actually asked. I had another question for Chris Hayes after I asked him how many times Christopher Hitchens passes his mind each day, and he said usually between 8 and 12 times. The other question I asked him was, is that a case of real journalism? And he said yes. So it must be true because he's a real journalist. So he's a real journalist.
Real politic, man.
Yeah, amazing. Like, even Amazing should probably be in the wiki, even though I think everybody knows what Amazing, like, everybody knows Amazing, right? Because like that's not just like a superpower broadcasting thing. That's Jesse Lee Peterson. But, everybody knows Amazing, right? It'd be amazing if they didn't. So
it might be worth a page or just a brief mention.
Yeah. Yeah, can you imagine like Wikipedia gets bigger than like Rational Wiki and stuff down the road?
I like how you call it a wiki. Is that a Canadian thing?
That's how I think of it. It's wiki, right?
Yeah.
I guess I'm a boomer.
Oh, it's funny. You're fine. You kept saying it, and I didn't want to say anything, but You said it one too many times that way, and I was like, nope, I got to say something.
Oh man,
That's gonna be a page on the
I was just
wiki.
thinking
Will
about
be
that. I'm like,
about
oh,
wiki.
now they're gonna meme that. Oh man, that's right. Yeah, Nuke Pooter.
Kevin Castley, the most Canadian man we've ever met, calls it a wiki.
Nuke Pooter. Well, no, I've heard a lot of people call it like Wikipedia, for example. Like, I guess maybe that's just a Canadianism. I don't know.
I couldn't tell you, man.
Nuke Pooter says Mason.
Mason.
He forgot the apostrophe though. Like there should be 2 apostrophes probably.
What's the? I'm actually curious. I'll have to go watch this interview later. But what was the section of the quote that Mehdi Hassan cited? Do you remember it off the top of your
It
head?
was about dying in a rice field. It was near the end, like the last 5 minutes, because they went on. Like he kept on grilling him on it, and John Bolton's like, "That's not even the full quote, bro." And he gave him the full quote, and then
What was his?
God, it was a true big brain moment. Oh my God, it was a true big brain moment because he's like, you said, you wouldn't go and join the Vietnam War because you didn't want to die in a rice field in Southeast Asia. And then Bolton's like, that's not the full quote. You didn't read the full quote. You just read a part of a sentence. Don't do that. Do you have the quote? And because I have the quote. And then Mehdi's like, he's scrambling through his notes. And I'm like, there's no way he has the full quote. He got that off of Wikipedia or whatever standard site makes fun of Bolton. Then John Bolton's like, okay, well, I'll read it to you. And he schools him. He reads him the full quote. And he's like, and the rest of the context was he's talking about how there's no political will and how the U.S. is just basically going to surrender and how the Democrats have no will to fight the communists and everything. And there's no respect or anything for U.S. troops and all this kind of stuff. So he's like, so I'm not going to go and die over there if this country isn't going to be committed to fight the war. That was basically the rest of the quote. And he's like, what, 16, 17 at the time or something? Anyway, and then after that, and it was like another 5 or 6 sentences, I believe. And then after all of that explanation, Mehdi Hassan, for like the 8th or 9th time by this point, is like, oh, so you did say you didn't want to die in a Southeast Asian rice field. And Bolton's like, basically, that's your takeaway? Like, it was a big brain take. It's like, it would basically be like you going up to somebody like Richard Dawkins and saying that evolution doesn't exist. And you say basically, so are you really arguing that like humans turn into monkeys? And then he spends 18 and a half years giving you a lecture on like the theory of evolution. And then after all that, you say to him, yeah, but are you really saying that humans turn into monkeys? And you're like, oh, I get it now. So he's a tar.
I just wasted my time. I wasted my time giving that explanation.
I understand now. You're tarded. Okay, I get it. Let's move on. It's like, that's basically, you could see it right there in Bolton's eyes. And he was pissed, dude. Like, he looked like he was at the UN in that moment. And he was like, oh, this fucker. This is one of the dumbest people I've had to deal with in a long time. And this guy had to deal with Trump, mind you. So, like, Mehdi Hassan, anybody who thinks that Mehdi Hassan is a great journalist, no, he's a brainlet. He just repeating the same question over and over again. Yeah, except he was given an answer, and then instead of adjusting his question based on that answer, he's like, oh, but you said the first part of the sentence fragment. How do you even respond to that? How do you even, because at that point,
real journalism.
Anything that Bolton says, Bolton could add 5,000 words of context, and he's gonna be like, oh, but you said the first sentence fragment. Yeah, I just explained to you. Like, dude, Mehdi Hassan is a fucking idiot. I don't get this cult or this hype around him. as this like brilliant, journalist and this kind of stuff. No, he's full of it. He's full of it. The Mehdi Hassan show, it's a joke. And he defends Iran on top of everything. I don't get it, man.
And as was cited earlier in the chat, he's also the guy who believes in flying horses. So I wouldn't expect too much intelligence from him.
That's true. He told Dawkins. That's right. He told Dawkins.
A very cringe moment in modern debate history.
Amazing. Yeah, it's like Kamal G. Ram says, Mason. 2 apostrophes.
That's how it is.
Yeah.
I'll watch that. The thing is, it's kind of inevitable that I'm going to have to respond to a video that talked about that. So probably, I don't know. I talk about Kyle enough. Maybe I'll respond to that Majority Report video. But that sounds terrible. Like that's going to be infuriating.
Yeah. No, you know what I commented in follow up to Kamal G. Ram's comment there, 2 apostrophes. But notice it's not apostrophes, it's apostrophes now, dude.
And like John Bolton, this is so interesting to me because he couldn't have served in Vietnam. Could he have? Like when
he went into the National Guard. I believe it was like the Coast Guard part of the National Guard.
So yeah, he was already serving his country in some.
Well, he was
to some degree. So,
yeah, like Nick Fuentes will say, "Oh, he didn't even serve in the military." That's BS. Their point is, "Oh, he didn't go to Vietnam." Yeah, he was in the Coast Guard or the National Guard. Let me just double check that on John Bolton.
Oh yeah, I mean there were a lot of people who didn't go to Vietnam. They still served.
That's right.
I don't see how it's like any soldier would say, "I don't want to die in a rice field." Like that should be a normal thing to say. But
okay, so
it is what it is.
Yeah, he was in the Air National Guard. Okay, there you go. Maryland Air National Guard. Yeah, and after serving in the National Guard for 4 years, he served in the United States Army Reserve for another 2 years. So he spent 6 years basically in the military, but that doesn't matter to anybody. By the way, he could go over to Vietnam like John McCain did, get captured, spend 5 years in a prison camp, get offered the ability to leave early, and then say, "No, I'm not leaving until all my compatriots get to go home with me," and then come back as a decorated hero, and they would dismiss him as a bloodthirsty war criminal. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference. It literally doesn't make a difference. You could be the most honorable war hero in American history, they'll call you a war criminal. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. There's no winning these people. Like they will never respect him no matter what he does. Like there's no way.
No. They clearly weren't like at no point during that conversation anyone would get the impression that Mehdi Hassan went in with an open mind and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm really just gonna be like a neutral journalist." Obviously, if you're a journalist, you do want to be somewhat confrontational and get answers out of people, but I think there's a way to do it without being a total douchebag. And Mehdi Hassan is not good at that. And I'm curious how he even got the interview in the first place. Did they talk about Bolton's book at all?
They did talk about his book a little bit. I think Bolton must have decided, that he was going to include it in terms of promoting his book and everything. But Bolton knew what he was getting into. Bolton said, "You get your 15 minutes." I think Bolton must have been like, I'll give him a chance or whatever. I'm surprised, honestly, that he would go there. Which, like, by the way, if he's going to go on Mehdi Hassan show, Mehdi Hassan, he should come here. He should come here. You know, if he wants the opposite of the Mehdi Hassan treatment, like he comes here, we'll have memes. Be like, so which one's your favorite rare Bolton? You know, like you got this one, 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 you got this. I don't know.
No, you.
Yeah, no, that one, I'm pretty proud of this. I made this one. It looks like he's literally saying it, too. Like, it looks like he's saying it. Like, if there was no caption there, you'd be like, oh, he's saying no you. But I just added it, right, to make it more clear. It's pretty good. Pretty good, right?
You get your 15 minutes.
Yeah, he, like, comes on here. And, yeah, he's like, okay, you get your 15 minutes. I'm like, okay, which is your favorite meme?
we could ask him anything, and it's like, no, but really, which one is your favorite?
Yeah. It's like, so are we going to talk about North Korea or whatever? It's like, oh, yeah, we'll get to that. But, like,
we would talk to him about the Russian story with the walrus. We'd be like,
yeah,
was this really you? Were you undercover?
Yeah, because, like, I asked him, I'm like, so my friend Billy Bong, hashtag Nostrabongus, hashtag the Bong is never wrong. He made a video basically speculating that it might have been you that had been fed up and went over and sunk that Russian vessel in the Arctic. Was that you, or was that actually a walrus, or did you morph your energies into the walrus? And he'll be like, you know, he'll be like, that's a state secret, bro.
Was the walrus your Patronus? Is that what you're telling us?
Man. Oh man. Yeah, no, I'd have some questions for Bolton. I mean, one of the first questions that I think would come to mind would be like, you know, who was the most annoying person to deal with out of all the isolationists in the Trump administration, you know?
Yeah, we know the answer to that, and it's Trump.
It's Trump. It would have to be Trump. I'd also ask him, you know, what exactly? Like, I know, like in your book, you talk about how you said, you know, you and I were exactly the same, but like, what crossed your mind in that moment? Because I'm probably thinking you must have said something like in your mind, like, you brainlet, you know, and he'd be like, well, I thought it was pretty cringe, bro. I don't know, man. I don't know. See, like, the thing is, the fact that he even went on like Mehdi Hassan's show and he's on Twitter and stuff, I don't know. Maybe he does see memes. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what Bolton does. All I know is that he doesn't have more than 15 minutes for Mehdi Hassan. So, you know, but I mean,
no, I mean, props to him. That it does take balls. Like
yeah.
I like comments that are like, man, he didn't do his research on Mehdi. Oh no, he knew who Mehdi was. He's a well-known figure.
There's no way Bolton. There's no way John Bolton. He's literally one of the smartest people in the United States. There's no way that he got caught off guard. Like, oh shoot, this guy's anti-war. I
thought he was on my side.
I thought that this was a neocon publication. Yeah, Mehdi Hassan. No, there's no way. It'd be like going on like Kyle's show and being like, wait, I thought you were on my side. What? Like, no, he knew what he was doing. There's like, they just assume that Bolton's just a bumbling idiot, basically, you know, like, oh, he can't be smart, he supported the Iraq war, he's a brainlet, that kind of stuff, you know. Like, you don't get to become national security advisor and have the intelligence of a dude who just goes on to Mehdi Hassan's show without knowing anything about him. Like, because he gets offers for probably all kinds of appearances. I'm sure his office probably gets like 100 invites a day. They know what they're doing. Like, there's no way he was caught off guard.
He's like, okay, look, you get 15 minutes because after that, I've got 15 minutes to be somewhere else.
Yeah. No, I loved it too, because the thing that was great about it was like John Bolton was like in his office. I believe it was probably in his house Like he's like a private citizen and everything. The thing is, even if he had nothing to do afterwards, those would still be 15 better spent minutes, you know, like than
absolutely.
having because at that point, what do you even do? Because you explain the full context of the quote, and then you get asked the exact same question again, as if the context hadn't just been explained to him. There's no, you're at an impasse at that point. What do you do? Like, what do you do? Like, it's like the Dawkins thing. You say, "Oh, do you really think humans can turn into monkeys, or monkeys can turn into humans?" And then you spend 18 years explaining, yes, like evolution is a thing. And then you get asked, like, "Oh yeah, but like, do you really think that like monkeys can turn into humans?"
You know,
it's
not exactly the same, but it reminded me, there's this really funny talk between Dawkins and like some creationist who's like anti-evolution, and the creationist was saying like, oh, you know, he was talking about like, oh yeah, so all these systems, you know, it took a long time for biological systems to develop, and Dawkins was like, yes. So so you're saying that organisms had to hold in a leak for 1,000,000 years? And Dawkins just like paused and looked at him like, are you serious? This is the question you're asking? You're asking me if there was an organism that needed to hold a pee for 1,000,000 years? Good God, man.
No, but it'd be worse, because it's like then you answer it and give like 3 hours of context explaining, no, you're talking about like an intergenerational thing, and then they ask the exact same question again, as if you hadn't just explained. That's Mehdi Hasan. No, I'm telling you, Mehdi Hasan is challenged. He's just not that bright, and it's either that or he's got his talking points that he needs to get down. So, but the guy's simping for Iran. So
he clearly just looked at the wiki or the wiki. He looked at the wiki, and that's where he got his script, and he didn't want to deviate from it. Well, the thing is, you kind of have to deviate from a script if you have somebody else on the call, especially someone who's going to be disagreeing with you, and that's the problem. Like a lot of these guys who do this kind of propaganda, they're not equipped for a back and forth conversation, because they don't they don't grow or evolve. They're utterly incapable of it.
They just have an image of Bolton as a ghoul and a goblin, and they can't adjust any new information to it. They're just static. They're inflexible, which makes them incredibly easy to own. The only impediment in the way of that is just that people are too dumb right now to give Bolton, to hear Bolton out. They just ignore it. And, because who wants to be the one guy that says that, oh, you thought that Bolton did okay there? Like, you can lose friends over that, right? So people hate Bolton.
I think at the very least, people should be like, look, I disagree with Bolton's politics, but by Mehdi, like, that was just a dirty move. Like, it was disingenuous, and you're clearly like quote fragmenting, quote sniping, and you don't know what you're talking about. Like, you're just repeating what other people have said, and you have the man right there to explain it to you. He explains it to you. He obviously knows better. He knows more about his own life than you do. And yet you continue on. See, that's when you know it gets dirty. When instead of debating the issues, you're like digging through somebody's personal life. Like, oh, let me find like an inconsistency. It's like at that point, like, you're just a lost cause. Like, you're just a bad person. You're not
from high school. Not even like in the Trump administration, from high school. That's how far back he had to go.
I mean, like, the thing is,
Okay, now this is funny. Now that I think about it, somebody in the chat's going to have to correct me, but Mehdi Hassan was a bit of an extremist in his youth, an Islamic extremist of sorts. I believe he was like an outright Islamist. Somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was Mehdi Hassan who I am thinking of. And in the past, he's been mad because I think Sam Harris was criticizing him over that, and he was like, "Oh yeah, but that was in the past, man. It doesn't count. It was in the past." So it's funny to hear him going after Bolton for his past comments, which weren't nearly as bad, if bad at all. So yeah, wow.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, like that's almost. Now that I'm making that connection, that's almost worth making a video about all by itself. Like, wow, Mehdi Hassan is a complete hypocrite.
There was 20 minutes or like 15, 16 minutes of footage in that interview. From the beginning, it basically like a Kyle or Jimmy thing. Like it would take 3 hours to respond to the dumb premises that he sneaks in. Just, I mean, he's like Max Blumenthal at that point, you know?
Oh God, yeah. It would take an ungodly amount of time to go over a video like that.
And then even if Mehdi watched your 3 hour take on it, explaining everything, he would ask you then, yeah, but he said the thing about Southeast Asian rice fields. He just repeats.
I'm looking it up. I want to find out if I'm right about this because I could swear. Yeah, Al Jazeera host Mehdi Hassan apologizes for past criticisms of non-believers. It was something else. I've always regretted. Okay, so this is a quote from him. I've always regretted the dumb and offensive comments I made in my 20s on atheism and homosexuality. Blah, blah, blah. I gave. Okay. Do I still have you, Kevin?
Yes.
Okay. He says, like a lot of journos, I've said things years ago that I now deeply regret. Chief among them for me is more than a decade ago in my 20s when I wasn't a public figure. Kind of like how when John Bolton wasn't a public figure in high school. I gave a bunch of speeches to students on Islam and extremism, and I said dumb, offensive, ranty stuff. He said in a Twitter thread on Monday. Let me actually, I'll find that thread because I believe that was in response to. Okay, so this was last year, and it was, I believe, partially in response to Sam Harris. I'm trying to actually find the real comments, not his thread. Yeah, and he still spends in his. I love these like apology threads where he still like doubles up back and makes excuses. Like, oh, he's talking about Christchurch. Like, shut the fuck up, man. Unbelievable. I love. Oh, here's another quote from him. This is awesome. Like, this is almost worth the video too. This is a quote from Mehdi Hassan. So the quote unquote real journalist. Wouldn't it be rational for Iran, geographically encircled, politically isolated, feeling threatened, to want its own arsenal of nukes for defensive and deterrent purposes? Yeah.
Oh wow. Oh wow. So he did the meme. He literally did the meme. Like, oh, but they just feel scared, bro.
Unbelievable, man.
So he's on their side at that point. Like, this is a regime that, by the way, they've been on the record not just saying, oh, we need these things to defend ourselves from the Americans, which that's not acceptable. No, they've been on the record saying they want to do a nuclear holocaust against Israel. So, how about we just believe them? How about we just give them the benefit of the doubt and believe them instead of being like, oh, they actually get a bunch of nukes, they do a nuclear war with Israel, and then we're like the surprised Pikachu face. Like, oh, how could that happen?
Oh, man.
No,
okay, so I'm getting this from Wikipedia, but that's clearly where he gets his information, so I think it's fair game. So, but I'll follow the quotes later just to try to understand the full context. But it says, during a sermon delivered in 2009. Oh, that seems a bit more recent than when John Bolton was in high school. Quoting a verse of the Quran, Hassan used the term cattle to describe non-believers. Hassan wrote in his New Statesman blog, the Quranic phrase, people of no intelligence, simply and narrowly refers to the fact that Muslims regard their views on God as the only intellectually tenable position. Just as atheists like Richard Dawkins or Sam Harris regard believers as fundamentally irrational and even mentally deficient. Yeah, find me any quote from them that would suggest that fundamentally irrational and mentally deficient. Yeah, no. Maybe some like troll, God is dead 69 commenter said that, but not Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris. Hassan returned to this issue in August 2012 following criticisms from the columnist Peter Hitchens, the lesser Hitchens, that the entire 45-minute speech is primarily an attack on Muslim extremists who try and justify violence against non-Muslims on an ends justify the means basis, but noted of his 2009 comments that his phraseology was ill-judged, ill-advised, and even inappropriate. Yeah. As if we're supposed to believe, he, man, Mehdi is totally reformed. It's not like he just got pushback and that's really the only reason he even partially apologized for anything. Is amazing. He's a snake, man. He's a complete snake, and he's an Iranian apologist and an apologist for Islamic extremism and an anti-atheist. Nah, fuck him, man. He sucks. That's kind of an anticlimactic way to sum it up, but like, really, what else can you say? He's a joke at this point. Like, you had a chance. Like, Dawkins gave you a chance, man. You could have said, oh, no, I don't actually believe in a flying horse. For me, it's like an allegory for something. And he was like, no, I actually believe that. I actually believe that my prophet went to heaven on a flying horse. And I was like, okay, well, I think this conversation is over. I think your 15 minutes are up, bud.
You're done, son.
I've heard enough from you.
Oh, man.
Kevin, if you think that's bad, Nick Fuentes doesn't believe in dinosaurs. Let that sink in.
I saw the clip. A dinosaur boy. That's right. I'm gonna see if we can get the clip. Yeah, we'll get the clip.
Oh, man. It's probably for like a religious reason, which is funny.
Yeah, he says, I'm tired of scientism. He says that dinosaurs are BS.
Oh, that's right. I have seen that. Oh, God.
Yeah. No, he's serious, right? Like he doesn't believe in dinosaurs, but like he believes in a lot of stuff. Like, dancing Jews on my USS Liberta did 9/11, But dinosaurs, nah, that's fake, man. That ain't real. Yeah, we'll get the clip. Nick Fuentes, by the way, Nick Fuentes is a total brainlet. He was one of the first people that ever actually blocked me on Twitter, which is hilarious because like I basically had hardly any followers then. He was like, "Oh, I'm blocking him."
Yeah, now he's
Yeah, Billy Bung did a video on this. That's right.
not one for accepting criticism.
Yeah, no, he's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Nick Fuentes, by the way, and I've said this before about Kyle, the only thing that's sadder than like unironically being Nick Fuentes is unironically being a simp for one of them. Like for Fuentes or Kyle or whatever. Like, because they drive around from state to state to go to like these conservative events and like do gotcha questions about like to Ben and Charlie and ask them like, you like you don't just want to like stone gays, or, you know, ridiculous.
It's so weird that Mehdi Hassan was talking about comments he made in his 20s when he was 30 in 2009.
Yeah,
when he has this big controversy.
I know, right? So we got a clip here. This is Based and Red Pilled. Nick J. Fuentes on dinosaurs and Noah's Flood. So,
Nick J. Fuentes.
Yeah, no, it's hey man, they said in the title it's based in red pilled. So let's see what kind of red pills he's got for us. It's
oh god,
it's not loading. But by the way, like this might be a troll. No, it has to be a troll. The guy's account name that uploaded the clip is Creationist. That has to be somebody that's like not actually a creationist, right? Like,
yeah, I'm guessing it's like one of these clip channels. It's like
cringe
clips.
Yeah, they have to be using based and red pilled ironically there's no way. Like, does anybody like I know we do like the hawk pill thing and I do the nuke pill thing and stuff. Does anybody actually say based and red pilled unironically anymore? That seems like a 2015, 2016 thing, but you know.
Especially about this.
He's red pilled on dinosaurs, man. He knows it was fake.
I don't believe the lies, man.
Yeah, he doesn't believe the lies. He only believes in the truth. You know, lies bad, truth good. Okay, here we go. The clip is uploaded. Here we are.
And to me, this is just like the most basic like ridicule that science brains, scientism people, scientists. I don't mean like scientists like an actual person who conducts science, but people that have an ideological belief in science, they cannot handle that. They cannot, it's like a religious thing. I know it's trite to say that, but they have a religious conviction in materialism, in nihilism, basically, this sort of stardust ideology. And the slightest bit of ridicule. Oh, he doesn't even believe in dinosaurs. Get a load of this guy. It's like, I actually did some research. Dinosaurs did exist, but they didn't exist 65 million years ago. And they did get killed by a meteor. Dinosaurs, I did my research. Dinosaurs did exist, but they existed alongside humans. And they were killed in the biblical flood with Noah's Ark. I did the research. The data shows, look, I looked at the data, I looked at the charts, and all these science people got on my case. They said, this guy doesn't believe in dinosaurs. That means he's not serious. Okay. Well, I looked at the facts, I looked at the fossils, and you know what I saw in the fossils? Red blood cells. I looked at the fossil records, and I found blood vessels and red blood cells. Really? Organic material surviving for 65 million years? That's ridiculous. You know what else I found? Is that all the dinosaur bones were in the same position. They were running away. They were in herds. They were running from a giant flood. They were buried in layers of sediment. If you find how deep the dinosaurs are, it's much deeper than if it was a meteor. Anyway, I'm not a scientist. I'm doing my best at summarizing all of this, but dinosaurs walked with people. I watched a video about this. I forget what channel it was, but they talked about how in the book of Job, they describe Behemoth. And they describe all the different characteristics of the behemoth. Job is questioning God, and God says, how dare you doubt me? I created, lions and, ostriches and all this. And then he describes Behemoth, the chief of his creations. And he gives all these descriptors for what Behemoth is. And they all spell out what? A sauropod that walked with man. So scratch my take from last week. Okay, science faggots, you got me. Okay, lab coats, fine. Dinosaurs did exist. You got me. I find it hard to believe, but they did exist. But they didn't die out 65 million years ago, and they didn't die because of a meteor. They were created by God at the time of Adam and Eve. They died in the flood thousands of years ago. And there's another thing about the fossil record. All the museums, all the paleontologists say that they cannot find the evolutionary background for dinosaurs. There are no transitional species for the dinosaurs. It's almost as if they were just put down one after the other. So I'm changing the game. Dinosaurs are real, but they walked with humans, and they got killed in the flood with Noah's Ark. So,
and big brain boy right there. Big brain takes. So we were wrong. We were wrong. He does believe in dinosaurs. So.
Oh yeah, let's be totally fair about his beliefs. Let's make sure we get this right. He believes in dinosaurs. He just has some disagreements with the common scientific consensus.
There was a comment asking in the video the clip that was from. They couldn't tell if he was trolling or not. There's no way he's trolling. Like, he says this kind of shit all the time. There's no way. Like, he believes it. He thought that was a big own, right? To the lab. He's on to the lab.
He doesn't get the benefit of the doubt like that. No. That's so funny. His evidence. So his evidence was there were red blood cells. Like, where? Where did you find the what?
He looked at the fossil record. He looked at it. He got out his microscope, bro. He went and dug up the fossil.
I'm sure he digs up. I'm sure he has access to all kinds of new discoveries and findings in the paleontology field, but because he's just such a trusted expert. And then his other evidence was the description of behemoth.
Ken Ham let him borrow his equipment, bro.
The team up we've been waiting for. Yeah, no, that's just amazing that someone could say that. I take it back. You called me out. I take it back. Dinosaurs did exist, but they walked alongside man. Yeah, I'm looking up the context in the Bible of behemoth because that might shoot a giant hole in his theory if I'm correct about this. Let's actually.
It triggered the libs though. So, Reese, you're a lib. How triggered do you feel right now on a scale from a scale from 6 to 10? How triggered are you?
Oh, easily a 10.
Oh yeah, same.
Even his own bullshit logic falls apart. So he's saying that the description in the book of Job of the behemoth was actually a dinosaur.
He said it was a sauropod.
He said it was a sauropod, but he also said that all the dinosaurs died during the flood, which chronologically and genealogically happened centuries before Job. So when God's talking to Job, describing supposedly a dinosaur, Job really should have been like, "What the fuck are you talking about? I've never seen a dinosaur."
But what if the book of Job took place before the flood, though? What if the Bible's not chronological? What if God was just gone?
That would be very odd.
What if it was? What if God has a bigger brain version of time, and he was just being ironic, bro?
I see. It could, the whole story could be an allegory. I wonder. So, because there's also the famous description of the Leviathan in the book of Job. I wonder what Nick Fuentes
Des thinks that is. I wonder what he thinks. That's
the Loch Ness monster, actually.
Okay, we finally have an explanation for everything.
That's right.
Oh.
That's right. A lot of people say that the Illuminati created the Loch Ness monster, but Nick Fuentes, he's on the lab coats. He knows the truth. He knows that it was actually the behemoth that created the Loch Ness monster. So there you go. Before the flood, but like also after the flood. The thing that's crazy is that that's not even in the top 100 of like the stupidest Nick Fuentes clips. It's not even close. Like if you see the stuff that he says about Stalin, for example, like the Catboy stuff. Was Reese there? Okay, maybe we lost Reese. Let's take a look at the chat. Yeah, we lost Reese. Dang. Hopefully he'll be back. Yeah, no, he's not getting a girl after quarantine. He's not into girls. Girls are for degenerates.
He likes cat boys.
That's right. He likes cat boys. Cat boys. 12 men in his room in America. We remember that Kraut video, right?
Oh no.
Yeah, Catboy is nice with his super chat. I can charge twice. Like that was Kraut. Okay, Kraut's a genius. By the way, Kraut actually managed to get blocked by Nick Fuentes shortly after showing him that video, so that was pretty good. So
epic block.
Yeah, he also appeared in the debate video in which Kraut called him Nick the Spick, where he's talking about how we must secure the existence of La Raza Blanca and all this stuff because he's a Mexican white supremacist. How fun is that, right? Like, because here's the thing about Nick Fuentes, right? If he gets his ethno state that he wants, here's the question. Are they going to shoot him for being a spick or a wop? Which one? Because he's both, according to their own logic. But he wants the Aryan ethno state.
Hello, Kevin.
Are you there?
Now I am. Okay. That was weird.
Okay, so my audio was on, your audio wasn't. Okay.
No, I couldn't hear you, but it looks like I'm having some kind of connection issue. I really don't know. Jaeger's probably on again, doing his thing.
Jaeger is challenging Nick Fuentes in the wilderness now in RuneScape.
And winning.
Yeah, winning big time. Nick Fuentes.
We should probably. Oh, go on.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, Nick Fuentes goes into the weldy and says basically like, look, I'm not gonna bring any armor or anything, bro, because like I'm not gonna give into the lab coats here. I'm just gonna go in and and see how it goes, and he just gets crushed, because because a lab coat. The scientisms, what would they say? They would say that if you are about to engage in battle, you should probably wear armor. But no, dude, armor, that's for the sheep, man. That's like wearing a mask, man.
What a pussy, wearing a mask.
I've seen a lot of very poorly edited memes on Facebook by like Trump supporters and stuff saying like your friends, and it's like a bunch of sheep wearing masks, and then it's like my friends, and it's like lions with Trump hats, except all the Trump hats are facing the exact same way. Very poor Photoshop, disproportionate, also very low rendering. So it's just every boomerism that you could imagine. And it's like, yeah, it's like your friends wear masks, they're sheep. My friends don't, they're lions. They vote Trump.
And then later on, they're just all coughing.
Yeah. Yeah, what a mess. What a mess. We should probably wrap up the stream. We're coming up on the 4-hour mark. So
yeah, let's just wrap it up.
Yeah.
I have no real final thoughts. I think we discussed everything pretty
I don't really have any final thoughts either. I just have the final pitch, Be sure to like the video, subscribe to Superpower Broadcasting, subscribe to Spooky Nukies. He's almost at 10,000 subs. Additionally, you can follow him over on Twitter at Spooky Nukies. You can follow me on Twitter at Kevin Castley. Be sure to follow on Twitch as well. We're almost at 50 followers right there. I think we're at 48 right now. That's cool. And as well, if you want to support the channel and what I do, you can check out my Patreon. Links in the description below, as well as you can also send me a tip to my PayPal. Links in the description below as well. So that's about everything. I'll be back tomorrow night. Have a good night, everybody. Obviously, I'll be streaming the election, so you don't want to miss that. And you can go and check out Reese's new videos if you haven't done so yet. He's uploading content now, so it's really cool. So have a good night, everybody. Peace.